a chance to be successful.
These are some very good players on the defensive side of the ball. I have a lot of respect for them, and so it's going to be quite a challenge for us. We've got to have a lot of balance like we did at BC to be able to come out of here with a W.
Well, I hope Kerwin has a good game coming back here. He's played very well for us, and he's done everything that we've asked him to do. And he's a very good team player. He's good in the locker room. He's a leader. That's all I can say about him.
All right, now these two teams met in week 2. Winnipeg winning at 47-27 kind of summed up the Argos season. They were good on defense. They weren't all that bad on offense. They were awful on special teams. That cost them the game. 24 points off Argos special team errors. That's what Winnipeg got. Milt Stegall had 3 TDs in that one. He's the #1 receiver in the CFL right now. Bombers coming off that big win. They're way ahead of last year, Matt.
James, they really are. This football team is in a very peculiar situation, too, playing on the road back-to-back games, of course, while we're seeing the Pan Am Games go on. This football team has surprised some folks. 2-2 on the year, not playing their best football, but what cost them early was penalties. If they can continue to be a very disciplined football team in Toronto, they will have a chance to put together their first back-to-back win since I was playing in Winnipeg, Chris.
That was a while ago.
It was.
And in Toronto, the big issue is quarterback. Jimmy Kemp starts, Jay Barker sits, and you know what? I think it's the right move at the right time. When you look at the 3 Argonaut losses, 2 out of the 3 were singular plays. I remember the home opener, the interception by Irv Smith brought back for a touchdown, 7 points. That was the disparity of points that made the victory. And then last week against Saskatchewan, 3rd play of the game, the block punt, went in to score. That was the big difference in the game. What Jimmy Kemp brings is an experience issue. He understands the weakness of a protection as opposed to the strength of a protection, so he has a thought process on how to get rid of the ball at the right time. The Argonaut defense is good. They should keep this game close. The difference in the game is going to be the mistakes. If the Argonauts make mistakes, they're not going to win. But if Jimmy Kemp has a good game, I think they got a good chance against a good Blue Bomber team.
All right, now our game on Adidas Friday Night Football tomorrow night, the Edmonton Eskimos taking on the Montreal Alouettes. Now, last week for the Eskimos, well, their game with Hamilton was kind of like the Blair Witch Project. It was very frightening, and it made a lot of people who watched it sick, especially the folks in Edmonton. It was ugly. They got killed by Hamilton. Things don't get easier this week as they take on the Owls. Montreal 2-0 on the road this season, but they have not won out in Edmonton since way back in 1977. So a big advantage for the Eskimos there. But Matt, how do they come off that crushing defeat and rebound this week?
Well, speaking to Don Matthews told me, hey, Nealon Green is the future of the Edmonton Eskimos. He's not going to pull the plug on his young quarterback. He's going to let him play. He's going to let him experience those situations of getting his tail handed to him. He's going to let him go out there and learn from start to finish in the ball game. Nealon Green, early in that game, had a fumble that was taken in for a score. That really threw him off kilter. That flustered the young quarterback, but Don did not panic. He let him play, and he let him learn. Later on that game, they came with the same blitz. He read it, called the same audible. He connected for a touchdown pass. That is progress. Don Matthews is going to continue to go with this young quarterback. He's going to revamp some things on defense. He's going to have that team ready to play.
And you know what? I think the Montreal Alouettes are going to be ready to play, but the key issue with them is what are they going to do defensively? It is so tempting for them to just duplicate the success that the Hamilton Ticats had. Basically, the Ticats brought 7, 8 people to blitz Nealon Green, got some great hits early, and really that was the key issue in the game. I don't know if the Montreal Alouettes have the athletes to play that type of system, not necessarily because of ability, but because of injury. Baron Miles isn't there, Tracy Gravely isn't there, Stephon Reed isn't there. When you look at a football team, you time your blitzes and you time your pressure just like you time a pass play, slant pattern, or fade. It takes practice and it takes repetition. The key to this game is Rod Rust, defensive coordinator. Does he keep it simple and basic, or does he try to get complicated, not knowing if his players can play at the same level as the previous films they were looking at, the Hamilton Ticats? Rod Rust has some good decisions, or some tough decisions he has to make, James.
All right, that is your CFL story this week. Hope you were taking notes. Up next on the CFL Live, what you don't hear when you're sitting at home or standing in the crowd. It's something we call the sounds of the game.
What can you get them on?
I can get him on race. I can get him on stop. Any coach, he's right here. This is him right here.
Okay. All right, we'll come back. We'll come to it.
And that front seven got pushed around a little bit.
Coming back. What's up, Ma?
How can you let him call that off? That's interference. The ball landed in bounds.
Way to block, baby.
That's way to
Way to go.
Hey, Tom,
Way to go, baby.
Welcome back, folks. Time for a little sideline eavesdropping. Every week this year, we're putting microphones on different players and coaches so you can get down to field level and hear what they're talking about when you can't hear them at home. Here's some of the best we got from last week in the CFL.
Sounds of the game.
We got the Roughriders defense, baby. We got the Roughriders defense. Oh.
Well, they may, but it's going to take them a while to settle in.
What can you get him on?
I can get him on race. I can get him on stop. And coach, he's right here. This is him right here.
Okay. All right, we'll come back. We'll come to it. He threw it right at the free safety. And the ball's fluttering. You want to play?
Yeah, I'll play.
Huh?
Yeah.
Go get ready.
They were a little small last week against the BC Lions, and that front seven got pushed around a little bit.
Coming back. What's up, Ma? How can you let him call that off? That's interference. The ball landed in bounds.
If you get an in call, you can use your over or under disguise. Okay?
You gotta get it rolling, man. You gotta lose. Animal style, baby. Always. Animal style. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Animal style! That's a good job. Way to block, baby. That's way to go. Way to go, baby. Good job.
Gotta like Chris Armstrong saying he was open on every single play. And by the way, Matt Dunnigan says every receiver says that all game long. Quarterbacks just have to learn to ignore it. Don't worry, we've got more football coming up for you. Tomorrow night on Adidas, Friday Night Football. Yes, it is the Alouettes and the Eskimos. The 3-1 Alouettes, the 1-3 Eskimos. But as we told you earlier, Alouettes have lots of trouble winning out in Edmonton. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about our game. Steve Sarkisian feeling pretty good. He's got his first victory under the belt. But tonight he gets Joe Montfort and the Ticats. Welcome back, everybody. Time to let our little boys play with their little technological toys. Yes, the only thing better than instant replay in football is something we like to call virtual replay.
Virtual replay.
All right, Matt, tell us about the Riders' shovel pass.
Yeah, very important. This is a lot of fun. Here you got the wide receivers just clearing everybody out. They're not involved in the play. Mike Saunders comes up and bumps Mr. Young up to the quarterback right here. There's a big lane here created by the offensive linemen who are right here. He has an unabated shot to the quarterback. Quarterback soft tosses the ball to Saunders. Offensive line creates a very big hole for him to run through, and Mike Saunders does the rest. Very important for all offensive football teams to constantly try to devise ways to get their ball to the key players. Donald Narcisse, Dan Farthing, Mr. Mike Saunders. They got to continue to do this, James, in order to have success tonight.
And it could be a potential play tonight because, as we know, Hamilton likes to come very hard. They have the great pass rush led by Joe Montfort. Let's have a look at that and let Chris tell you all about it.
Well, James, Hamilton is so good because they can confuse you or they beat you with a one-on-one. Here, the center slides with the guard to double-team the defensive tackle. That leaves Montfort in a one-on-one situation. We'll get back to that in a moment. On the other side, you have two one-on-ones, but here, the running back, Mike Pringle, if there's a quick escape, he can help out. The reality is the only person that can make the play in this situation is Montfort. And look at this. He uses his greatest gift, his explosive speed around the corner, takes Tracy Ham down from the backside. That was an important play in the game, and I think you're going to see it again tonight. Hamilton is a good defensive football team because they can execute a system or they can line up on you, look at you eye to eye, and beat you. And I think that is the critical issue tonight.
By the way, Joe Montfort, not quite as scary looking when he's one of those virtual cartoon guys, but he's much scarier in real life, and that's where Steve Sarkisian gets to see him tonight. And you got to wonder how the Saskatchewan quarterback slept last night. Looked pretty calm and cool in practice. In fact, well, you have to after coming off your first victory. But a much different story when you're taking on the Ticats.
Anytime you get the start, it's exciting, especially being a young quarterback in this league. So, you know, you want to go out there and make the most of your opportunity, but you also don't want to try to do too much and get your team in trouble. So I think it's going to be important for me to go out there and just play my role on the team and let the guys around me, you know, make plays.
And that is the proper attitude for a young quarterback to have. You can't try to do too much, Matt. Now, one guy who's going to be key, Eric Gulliford.
Yeah, you got Curtis Mayfield, Eric Gulliford. Look for Eric Gulliford to be utilized all over the football field, outside, inside. Especially, they're going to try to hook him up and key on this, folks, on Mr. Vaughn, number 39 for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, their halfback. Look for Eric Gulliford to be pressed up by him and use his lateral quickness, his side-to-side movement to escape and put Vaughn, who's a much bigger player, in chase situations. Saskatchewan feels like this is a matchup that they'll be looking for and trying to exploit, James.
All right, now we know Hamilton's offense, which was absolutely explosive last week against Edmonton. Danny McManus really got things on track. What is the greatest challenge facing Greg Marshall and the Saskatchewan defense?
Well, I talked to Greg Marshall earlier today, and I said, well, you look at your choices here. You have a McManus that seems to be back in his rhythm in terms of slant passes, like the pass to Corey Grant, and Grant kind of spins right down to the 1-yard line. That was a huge play. Or you have to take away the running game, and tonight the running game is Eric Lapointe. He says, Chris, more than anything else, we have to handle that running game. There's still an opportunity that Danny McManus will not have one of his best nights. They can always drop a ball, we can get a tip, we can get an interception. But if you do not establish the line of scrimmage, you are in trouble. Play after play after play. I like the Lawson kid. He's an addition. Arkel Trulock in space has helped. Colin Scribner has a challenge. Young Canadian starting at nose tackle. He has to play a good football game. Saskatchewan has an opportunity tonight, but first and foremost, they have to shut down Eric Lapointe in that running game, James.
Now, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, of course, got off to that brutal start, 0-3, and things were really heating up in Saskatchewan. People were losing their patience. That win last week really helped, but tonight they take on the big boys in the Hamilton Tiger Cats. All right, we're getting ready for some football. Yes, join the party in Hamilton. Ticats Roughriders kickoff is coming up next. Night in Hamilton, where the 2-2 Ticats take on the 1-3 Saskatchewan Roughriders. Hey folks, welcome back to the CFL on TSN. It's Duffy, Dunnigan, and Schultz with you. And you know, last week we found out that Saskatchewan can win, but it was at home and it was against another struggling team in Toronto. Tonight, a much different story as they take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who after struggling early in the season really seem to be back on track, especially after that huge convincing win last week against Edmonton. How do you follow up that last week, Chris?
Well, it'll be tough, but they may have an opportunity to do it tonight. First and foremost, those 54 points that the Hamilton Ticats scored, that was not luck. That was their best game of the '99 football season against Edmonton. And really, when you think about it, the touchdown pass to Terry Vaughn, that was lucky. That game should have been 54-1. Excellent performance by Hamilton. Saskatchewan has two young guards, Lazo and O'Day. Look for Don Southern to kind of confuse them, attack him, and really abuse him in terms of his blitz packages with safeties, linebackers, defensive halfbacks, cornerbacks. It really doesn't matter. Sarkisian's going to see everything. I think he has a chance to adjust, but I like the aggressiveness that Hamilton brings to this game to create plays and turn the ball over, Matt. I think they're going to do well.
Chris, they could, but Sarkisian, you said the key word, he's going to see a lot of things. Steve Sarkisian went to BYU. He's a smart quarterback. They're going to learn from Edmonton's mistakes last week. Sarkisian is going to put his receivers in the middle of the football field when Hamilton blitzes, and they play cover zero, leaving the middle wide open. Look for them to put their receivers in there, James, and take advantage of the blitz a little bit differently than what Edmonton did last week.
All right, thanks very much, gentlemen. You hear much more from these guys at the end of the quarters and at the half, but for now, hey, why don't we play some football? When we return, we will take you out to Hamilton for some real live pigskin action. We're on Lancaster, looking serious, looking ready. Cal, spitting.
Week 5 in the CFL begins at Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton, where it's always difficult for the visitor to win a football game. After back-to-back losses, Hamilton roared to a resounding 46-point win over Edmonton last Thursday. That's not great news for Saskatchewan, the visitors to Steeltown tonight.
It is always tough to win in this stadium, no question about it, and they may just be catching the Ticats at the beginning of a hot streak.
The forecast from the Weather Network as we look out over the skies over Hamilton. 24 degrees, a beautiful evening, but the wind could be a factor northwest going from left to right across the television screen tonight. After 3 straight losses, Cal Murphy finally found a way to lead the Roughriders to victory last week. It wasn't pretty, but it was critical. After a sluggish start, Murph looks to make it 2 straight tonight as he matches up against a Saskatchewan legend.
Ron Lancaster says that his team may be better than last year's team that went to the Grey Cup, but they're still trying to find themselves. If he wins tonight, he ties Bud Grant for 7th all-time in winning as coach in the CFL with 102 victories.
He picked up his 100th win earlier this season, and Paul McCallum puts it on the tee for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who will kick into the breeze, meaning the Ticats will have the wind at their backs for the opening quarter at Iverwin tonight. It was breezy at Taylor Field the other evening. It might be a little more windy here tonight. Curtis Jackson for the Tiger Cats. He'll have a decent return as he gets away from the first wave and is out across the 45-yard line. Tonight's starting lineups brought to you by Midas. Car care the way it should be. Danny McManus shook off a couple of subpar performances last week and led the Tiger Cats to a 54-8 victory over the Eskimos. A Ticat win tonight will set up a first-place showdown with the Alouettes next week in Montreal. Hard to figure, Danny McManus, looking back a couple of weeks, why he wasn't on track with his offense.
Yeah, you asked Ron Lancaster, what's about Danny McManus? How's he doing? How does he feel? He says, Danny's Danny. You know, it doesn't matter. Win, lose, or draw, we're going to get the same quarterback, and he's on a roll now.
From the 47, first down, Hamilton. And Williams has room around the left side for an easy first down out to the 40-yard line. Ronald Williams has 22 yards and a great start for Hamilton.
Well, Ronald Williams is nicked. He's got an ankle injury, and he didn't practice a whole lot this week. They weren't sure, in fact, right up to game time, if Ron Williams was going to be in the lineup. They thought they'll probably go a lot with 5 receivers and see Trevor Shaw in the lineup offensively, but Ronald Williams gets a carry right off the bat, and Hamilton has to establish a running game.
Well, good news for McManus and the Tiger Cats. Mike Morreale is healthy again and lines up inside with Darren Flutie. Trevor Shaw is also in there. He has been a rookie sensation, or at least was a couple of years ago. The rookie sensation this year, Eric Lapointe. Up front, Carl Coulter centers a very solid offensive line. Shaw has been very solid for the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the early going. He's had a chance to play with Morreale, not feeling up to par. On the first play, Todd McMillan is the injured Saskatchewan Roughrider over to make the tackle on Ronald Williams.
Yeah, he just flew into that tackle on Ron Williams, and his legs were whipping around, and they're checking him out, make sure that he's okay. He sort of took a lot of the hit.
Cal Murphy was fairly relaxed yesterday after last week's win.
Here's a look at the run. Ron Williams to the outside, tackle coming from the inside.
McMillan was kind of underneath it.
Somewhere underneath Mario Smith, who is starting at free safety, was Todd McMillan.
So the Riders will make some adjustments on defense, but here's the way they plan to go.
Yeah, this is how they wanted to start. Colin Scribner back in the lineup at the nose guard. Terrell Farley enters as a linebacker, supposed to have a whole bunch of speed. We'll watch him tonight. And in the secondary, they say Curtis Gallick was supposed to start according to the depth chart, but after a big game last week for Mario Smith, he is going to play. In fact, he's starting right now.
Lawson made a big difference for Saskatchewan last week. After the 22-yard gain, it's 1st and 10 Ticats. And they'll keep it on the ground to Ronald Williams one more time. He was supposed to be hurt. He's the only Ticat to get his hands on the ball outside of McManus thus far.
Some of the best running backs in the game's history do a lot of that. You know, the old, I got the bad leg, and then they limp out on the field, and then they tell everybody that will listen that they may not play, and then they get out there and bust a couple runs right on you. So just to get that defense thinking, this guy's not hurt.
7 yards for Ronald Williams. He's on the sidelines now with LaPointe in the ballgame for the Tiger Cats on 2nd and 3. And it is Eric LaPointe wrapped up by Willie Pless for starters, and he got some help from number 25, Curtis Gallick.
Well, there was a lot of questions with Willie Pless signing in Saskatchewan this year. Is Willie Pless still got some football in him? And I felt from the beginning that he did, and asked Cal Murphy about it yesterday, and Cal says, you know what, Willie Pless is just flat out playing really well. And as long as he keeps playing well, he's in this lineup, and they need him, and they need his experience.
17 tackles to lead the Roughriders. Osbaldiston is in, and he's having another terrific season. His longest from 52. He's only missed a couple in 12 tries. Spotted at the 41. And it's wide. The wind a bit of a factor there as it sails through the end zone. So the Ticats, with a not bad drive, settle for a single point from 42 yards. And Paul Osbaldiston.
CFL Live on TSN is brought to you by Castrol GTX Drive Hard. And by Molson Canadian. Here's where we get Canadian.
Quarterback of the future for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Steve Sarkisian, gets his second straight start at quarterback. His numbers weren't great, but he got the job done as the Riders held on for a 5-point victory over the Argos, their first win of the season. That was last Friday night. So here's Steve Sarkisian ready to go. Little play action, and Sarkisian looks to the near side. Tight coverage there. Gilliford was the target. Gilliford, Farthing, Mayfield, and Narcisse, a fairly good receiving corps. And in the backfield, it's Saunders and Daniels. Up front, a little concern for the guard positions. Lazio and O'Day really have little experience as starters and are fill-ins because of injury to the Saskatchewan Roughriders along the offensive line. Here's Lazio, and it's 2nd and 10 Roughriders. The heat is on. Sarkisian is down. Wrapped up by Philbreck and Gonzalo Foy.
It is a Hamilton defense, John, that has given up just 3 touchdowns in 4 games, 2 through the air and 1 through the ground, and that's because of the front 7 led by Calvin Tiggle in the middle. Lamar McGriggs and Joe Hagan's also off to a great start in the secondary. Rob Hitchcock had a big game last week versus the Edmonton Eskimos, 2 interceptions and blitzed 17 times in the game.
No doubt the Roughriders are expecting a lot of that this evening. McCallum into the breeze, standing back inside his 15-yard line. Not deep, bouncing near midfield. Eurosis Parker, 21, returning for the Ticats. Broke away from 1 and has about a 6-yard return. So again, the Ticats will have good field position for Danny McManus, hitting on 53% of his passes. And the interceptions have crept up a little bit on Danny Mack so far this season.
Well, he had 7 in the 2 losses, and he's had 1 interception in the 2 wins. So that tells a little bit of a story in itself. But Danny McManus, just like Steve Sarkisian tonight, will have to handle this win similar to what we saw in the Toronto-Saskatchewan game last week in Taylor Field. They're going to get really 2 strong quarters with the wind at their back, and 2 when they're facing it. Got to make hay when you have the wind at your back, and right now Danny McManus has it.
On first down, McManus goes to the far side. Flutie was the target, but there was a little mix-up over there, and there's a marker down.
There's a flag on the field. Flutie turned around, looked like he was looking right in the sun. There's a little bit of sun on that half of the field, and when Flutie turned that out route, he was looking right back into it. Danny McManus threw it a bit high. He really didn't have a chance anyway.
Major foul, face mask, 68 Hamilton, first down.
Dave Hack, the right tackle.
There he is right there. Dave Hack working on Arkel Trueluck. And there's right after the fact with the face mask. When you get the hands up in the face, you can put your hands on the shoulder pads, chest plates. That's the ones, right in the chest area.
Chest.
Yeah. You can grab those, but you can't get your hands up in the face mask.
What about the bicep plate?
No, you can't get out on the biceps either. Once the hands go out to the outside, you can be called for holding there. But Dave Hack, always game in and game out, has to face the best pass rusher on the team. Tonight it'll be Arkel Trueluck, the designated pass rusher for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Alfred Payton will be another one that he has to face. The only guy that he doesn't have to face is Joe Mumford, but he has to see him in practice.
Pretty good offensive line for the Tiger Cats. McManus now facing first and 25. The Ticats back at the 35. McManus unloading in a hurry, looking for Andrew Gregg, and he was about 1.5 yards too far. Andrew Gregg has struggled a little bit in the early going this season, trying to get into the groove, and McManus missed him there with the wind at his back, and that might have affected the throw.
Yeah, he has been struggling. I mean, part of that is because Danny McManus has struggled a little bit. You know, when your quarterback isn't getting you the football, it's tough to get in a rhythm. But Ron Lancaster said during a week of practice, these two have worked out quite a bit and seem to be getting back on the same page. Not quite yet, though. That one went incomplete.
Third down, and Osbaldiston steps across his 25 to get a bullet drive away with a win. Gulliford returning for the Rough Riders out across the 35. Good tackle by Cooper Harris. Ticats have the lead, but it's only 1-0, and Ivor wins. Mike Saunders forced Saskatchewan halfway to a first down off right tackle. And that was the only play you missed. And a timing problem we had on the field. They started before we were ready.
And that's going to stop. We'll be down there, man. We're not going to take that anymore.
This will be 2nd and 4. Rough Riders trailing by 1 at the 40-yard line. Sarkisian on target for a first down across the middle. Curtis Mayfield has his first catch since returning to the lineup. He's playing his second game.
Well, they're going to need Curtis Mayfield. If Hamilton comes with a similar game plan they played last week with Rob Hitchcock blitzing and then showing blitz and dropping out, they're going to have to go to Mayfield or Dan Farthing throughout this game and hope that Mayfield can recognize it, or Farthing in a hurry, and get down the middle when Rob Hitchcock is not in the middle.
Riders have a first down just across midfield. Good play action fake as Sarkisian comes to the near side, and he's picked up. Looking for Mayfield, and West has it. West began as a halfback this season, moved to cornerback, and has his first interception of 1999.
Hamilton Tiger Cats started with Keith Cobb, a pure rookie on the corner. He struggled against Montreal. They moved Frank West out to the corner, and he plays it. This is a veteran move by Frank West because he has the short zone, but he baited Steve Sarkisian into throwing it deep. He said, look, your guy is open, and then he broke off his zone, got up there, and got the interception. And Sarkisian didn't have much more time to throw this one. Joe Mumford bought the fake at first, but got back out there in a hurry, and then he gets right on Sarkisian, because after an interception, it's up to Mumford to block the quarterback, and he does, well, more than he had to.
On the turnover, Ticats first down near the 35. And that'll be good for a couple. Ronald Williams was listed on the depth chart as a starter. Then it was suggested that he likely wouldn't begin the game, and he's carried the ball about 4 times already. Once for 22 yards.
Been playing with an ankle brace, and it's tough to cut when you got an ankle brace. Sometimes when you got an ankle injury, and I had one when I played at times, and when you run straight ahead, it's not too bad. But when you have to make that cut one way or another, that's when it becomes difficult, and you usually round off your cuts. You don't cut quite as sharp as you used to. So we'll see if that affects Ron Williams throughout this game. And Eric Lapointe will play some as well, as will Trevor Shaw in the 5-receiver pack for Hamilton.
Gain was 3. This is 2nd and 7 Ticats. Halfway through the opening quarter at Ivor Wynn. Shotgun McManus, and that draws some flags. Gregg makes the catch. Has one man to beat. Andrew Gregg can go all the way. That'll be a touchdown if the penalty isn't against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. 66 yards. Andrew Gregg.
Willie Pless jumped offside, but now was he drawn offside by the Hamilton Tiger Cats?
Touchdown stands. You can hear it in the background from referee Ellis. Andrew Grigg, 66 yards, his first touchdown of the season.
And
he was open, wasn't he?
He was open. He'll put that one in the trophy case because, you know, when you're struggling, everyone becomes a big catch, and then when you can bust one like that, boy, you get your confidence back in a hurry. And Andrew Grigg and Danny McManus, after working together for that week, seem to be back on track.
We said he was struggling a little bit, and actually he did drop a couple of passes that were catchable, but Lancaster was suggesting yesterday he just hadn't fit into the groove quite yet in 1999. He's there now. Has the touchdown, 66 yards, and one more from Paul Osbaldiston as the Ticats score quickly.
Well, first of all, you're going to see what was offside. Here comes Willie Pless. He jumps up in there. He's offside. He wasn't drawn, so it's no procedure. The offensive line held their water. Now, here's the pass by Danny McManus. He catches Doug Kraft on an inside move for Andrew Grigg, and then a bad angle by Mario Smith from the safety position, and Grigg is on the way to the house. You see Willie Pless coming on the blitz, and then once he sees that he's offside, he stops his momentum. Now he has to restart, so he never gets any pressure on Danny McManus. Danny McManus has lots of time and a great throwing lane to find Andrew Grigg, who got inside of Doug Kraft, and away he goes.
What a year Grigg had in 1998. 51 receptions, 889 yards. What a career this guy has had with the Edmonton Eskimos, an 8-time All-Canadian.
Well, he's shaking his head, John, because he knows that if he's going to be offside, he might as well continue on and go.
Nowhere to go for Kennedy Nicayason, returning as the Ticats special teams cover well. Reggie Slack did not make the trip to Hamilton. In fact, he did not make the airplane yesterday. So there's lots of stories swirling around on what his future will be with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Steve Sarkisian started last week and got Saskatchewan's first win of the season. Some suggestion that Slack is injured. Others are wondering if he'll play another game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, that's an interesting story because you think over the last 3 weeks, when Slack was pulled 2 weeks ago, sat on the bench, was very upset, you could tell. Last week, the calf injury came up, and, you know, you give him the benefit of the doubt. He's got a calf injury, he's got a calf injury.
Here's Mike Saunders. And he'll have about 6 yards. Key to success for Saskatchewan here, as Glenn Suter sees it.
Well, I got to keep McManus on the bench. What I mean by that is that the defense got to come up big, 2 and out, keep McManus over there, and then offensively put some drives together, just averaging 4 first downs in a quarter in 4 games. Defense needs to make some big plays, 0 interceptions out of the secondary, and cash in on that Ticat blitz like we talked about. 12 times in the first half alone, Rob Hitchcock went on a blitz last week.
Saunders made more than advertised. This is a first down for the Roughriders. And Saunders was met as he hit the line of scrimmage that time.
That was amazing. I talked to Rob Hitchcock before the game about his week last week. 2 interceptions, you know, could have been player of the week. Joe Mumford, his teammate, got it, but, you know, that's a game that is fun for free safety. You blitz 17 times in a game, so you're chasing the quarterback all game. And then when you fake it and drop back, he throws you a couple of interceptions. I mean, that's a fun one to be in.
Second down, 9 to go. Sarkisian near side. Here's the heat, and he has a target. Don Narcisse has added to his CFL record of 203 games played and 203 catches at least. I mean, he has made a catch in every game he's played in green and white. Quite a run.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable when you think of all the quarterbacks that have thrown him the football. 203 consecutive catches. I mean,
203 games with a catch.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And right now he is looking at 1 catch away from second in all of football behind Art Monk and Jerry Rice. He will pass Andre Reed.
74 career touchdowns for Don Narcisse, the all-time receiving leader in Canadian football, 880 some.
And you know, you think about all those catches and everything else for Don Narcisse, you know that in his career, he's only fumbled the ball 6 times.
That's an amazing stat.
I mean, that is really amazing. Some of the hits that receiver will take, and 6 times in his whole career is truly amazing.
Good enough for a first down. Sarkisian goes the other side this time, and it's Narcisse again coming up with a catch. Short of the first down this time.
I was joking with him before the game and saying, you know, I asked him, how do you feel? I mean, you know, for a guy your age, you know, he must be starting to feel a little. He said, no, I feel great. He said, I feel like I could play a couple more and want to get back in the game. Looking forward to a couple more years. And, you know, I want to keep that streak alive. And I said, yeah, but you got to catch more than 1 a game. And he goes, yeah, you got to talk to my quarterback about that. So he's got 2 already.
And last week, his catch to keep the streak alive came late. Far side, this is Saunders sliding out of the backfield. Another Saskatchewan first down. Sarkisian looks cool right now. Saunders playing with injured ribs and averaging 5.5 yards a carry on the ground. Picked up 14 there on the reception.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Saunders is going to be key to picking up that blitz against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. We talked about Rob Hitchcock. We talked about how aggressive Hamilton plays defensively. Well, key, not only carrying the football for Mike Saunders in this offense here tonight will be, can he pick up the blitz? And he can. He's a veteran. He can recognize it, and he can help out the guys around him.
Gulliford to the near side, and Saunders gets the call over left tackle, better than halfway to a first down. Saunders running well for the Roughriders. He's out across midfield.
Plus, if you have a Mike Saunders that's carrying the ball and is hot carrying the ball, and you keep giving it to him, keep feeding him the rock, because that means your offensive line can attack the line of scrimmage rather than sitting back. When you're blitzing a line, you're facing a blitzing defense, you're sitting back trying to pick up all those blitzes. If you can attack, that helps your offense in a big way.
Good start for Saunders. Nice drive for the Roughriders. 2nd and 4. And he'll come up short of the first down this time. The ball squirted loose, and they're calling it a live ball. Hagen's heading to the end zone, and this will be a Ticat touchdown. Joe Hagens, and they wave the ball. I didn't see the ball squirt loose in the pile.
Well, we had the bad angle because Saunders hit the pile from the opposite side of our booth from up in the press box here, but underneath that pile, he went down, the ball squirted out. Joe Hagens takes it and picks it up. There was no whistle. That is one thing that's for sure. No one, not one of the officials, blew the whistle.
A couple of turnovers costly to the Roughriders early here.
Well, somewhere in that pile is Mike Saunders, but the ball was lying on the turf.
Joe Hagens took it out and goes 58 yards for the touchdown. I thought the whistle would have gone just from our vantage point here. Apparently not. 2 turnovers. That one cost the Riders a direct touchdown. The interception led to another Ticat touchdown. It's 15-0 on CFL Live. Here's another look at the touchdown.
Here is Mike Saunders. He's right there. Now watch, he's got the ball right now. He hits the hole. Now, right about here, he is looking for the football. That ball was on the ground before he was on the ground. You could see him try and scramble and look for it. Joe Hagens picks it up and is gone. Heads up play by Hagens to play till the whistle. He didn't hear a whistle and he kept playing.
Saunders out there right now, ready to return the kickoff after the touchdown. Osbaldiston lifts it high. Kennedy, the Kaysen. And a good hit as he crossed the 20-yard line to about the 23. You know, not much rest for Joe Hagens after the fumble return TD.
You talked to Ron Lancaster about Joe Hagens, and he'll say that our defense, we think, is better this year, and it's better for one reason, number 15. He thinks they're a better defense than the defense that went to the Grey Cup last year from the East because of Joe Hagens.
Well, he's very speedy and a former strong safety moving up to linebacker. We asked Lancaster about that yesterday and said because he was a strong safety in college, this move into the linebacking spot hasn't been a big adjustment for him. Sarkisian, little shovel pass for Mike Saunders. Needed a block, didn't get it that time.
This was the virtual play in the pregame show, the Mike Saunders shovel pass. That thing looks great, by the way. I love that. But this is how it works. Here's Saunders right here. He steps up like he's going to block, then sneaks back in for the shovel pass. He picks it up by good hustle by Gonzalo Floyd, snuffs it out. See, he looks like he's going to block, then he turns around, takes that ball. Now watch the hustle by number 90. He's way upfield, keeps coming back, makes the tackle.
Loss of a half a yard. Sarkisian stands in and fired behind his intended receiver. Gulliford was the target, and Sarkisian says it was my fault. The marker back in the Saskatchewan backfield. We'll check out the penalty.
Major foul, roughing the passer. Hamilton, number 45. First down.
Lamar McGriggs, former Saskatchewan Roughrider. He's quick and he's mean, and he got caught there.
And he was a big part of last week's blitz package with Rob Hitchcock from the safety. Lamar McGriggs was also doing a lot of the blitzing. Here he comes, working on Sean Daniels. That ball is long gone. It wasn't a big hit, but there's no reason that Lamar McGriggs has to do it. He's wondering why. The only thing you could say about Lamar McGriggs there is that he likely didn't see it was thrown. Or maybe just wanted to let him know he was there anyway.
He's going to be around from the 38, first down. Saunders running well across the 45. 7, maybe 8 yards for Saunders. He ran into Hitchcock again, number 42.
Pretty good offensive game plan, especially heading into the win for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Keep Mike Saunders involved with a shovel pass, keep him involved running the football, keep the passes to a minimum, short passes, safe passes, screen draws, just to make sure you can keep possession of the football when the wind is in your face.
No doubt about that one.
Ben Fairbrother did not get the snap count. Either that or Steve Sarkisian changed it and didn't tell him.
Fairbrother had a stride or two.
Illegal procedure. Saskatchewan, number 52, still second down.
Yeah, that's just not getting the snap count. You know, when you jump off a little bit offside, that could be just you're anxious. You see the block you got to make. You're going to jump across the line of scrimmage and you get a little anxious at it. That's just not knowing what number we're going to snap it on. What hut is it going to happen?
That spins it down to 2nd and 7. Riders back to the 40-yard line, trailing 15-0. Sarkisian far side, tight coverage over there, and he couldn't hook up because Gerald Vaughn was there.
Well, the big physical halfback for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Gerald Vaughn, is all over Dan Farthing on the play, and he does it from depth. See that? He just nice, easy back pedal for Vaughn. Make sure he keeps Farthing in front of him. Breaks down when he sees Dan Farthing going to break down. That's just called reading the hips. Defensive backs look straight at the hips of the receiver. And as he breaks down his feet to make the cut to turn to the outside, that's when you break down. You don't peek at the quarterback or anything like that. Gerald Vaughn played it perfect. Textbook.
As a result, Paul McCallum will kick into a stiff breeze at Iverwin with 39 seconds to go in the opening quarter. No flag. The kicker is down, and no return for Parker or Jackson. Paul McCallum pleading for a penalty marker to go down.
Sure is. Well, he went down, but was his foot back on the ground? Was the kicking foot back down? It's Gerald Vaughn that gets the pressure. Here comes the punt. Now, as long as that kicking foot comes back to the ground, which it didn't, you cannot contact the kicker. Whoa.
No penalty there. 25-yard punt.
I don't know. I don't know about that one. That's the rule. I mean,
his foot wasn't on the ground.
His foot was definitely not on the ground. Now, maybe the official thought he was just sort of deliberately holding it up there to draw the foul and said, no, you're not getting that one.
Ticats with 4 receivers to the far side. McManus looks over the middle, and he'll have a first down. Out across the 55-yard line. Trevor Shaw.
Well, John, for the Ticats to win this game, I think they got to do three things. One, get off to a fast start. This is an offense that hasn't scored a point in the first quarter all season. Now, they've got a couple points on defense and special teams, but no offensive point. Establish the run. Look at that. 2 wins, they average 200 yards a game. 2 losses, it drops to 39.5 yards. They got to get the running game going, and I think mix things up on defense for Steve Sarkisian. Sarkisian watched the film all week and saw the blitz. They got to mix it up and drop out of that blitz sometimes.
This should be the last play of the opening quarter. Slight delay, a draw to Ronald Williams, and it went nowhere. Travis Smith, the middle linebacker, standing in to make the tackle on Ronald Williams there. Lancaster in control of things thus far. At Ivor Wynn, it's 15-0 Hamilton.
You're watching the CFL Live, and we're at the quarter. Brought to you by 1-800-HI-IT'S-ME. It's the cheapest way to call. Collect.
So the Ticats pick up where they left off last week. Remember last week, Joe Montford picked up the Nealon Green fumble, returns it for a touchdown. This week, it's Joe Hagan's. Ticats off to another fast start. Is there a better Canadian receiving trio in this league than Mike Morreale, Trevor Shaw, and Andrew Grigg? Matt, I think not.
No, I don't think there is, James. Right now, Danny McManus is the true beneficiary of this. He's also a beneficiary of having some experience and watching his right tackle, Dave Hack, just take on the defender and give him time. He recognizes the blitz very, very quickly. It's a simple situation where Danny McManus catches the ball, and look how quickly he turns his face and turns his attention to the right side, knows exactly where he goes with the football, throws a strike to Andrew Grigg, and he runs like he's being dog chased to the end zone for 66 yards and a touchdown. Danny McManus recognizes a blitz, knows exactly where he goes with the football, throws a strike. James, it's simple arithmetic from then. Andrew Grigg outruns everybody.
Now, Chris, what does this do to a young quarterback, Steve Sarkisian, when you fall behind this early?
You know what? It should do absolutely nothing. If I'm Steve Sarkisian, the first thing in my mind process is, number one, that was a running back that fumbled the football. Number two, it was a defensive lapse. Stick to your game plan. Stick to getting the ball to Mike Saunders. It's still very early in the game. It shouldn't hurt his confidence at all, James.
And remember, Hamilton had been awful in the first quarter so far this season. They'd only scored 7 points total in 4 games. They usually get better as the game goes on, which could be bad news for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Back to Ivor Wynn now for second quarter action.
And we're looking forward to a trip to Edmonton and Commonwealth Stadium tomorrow night, not knowing what to expect from the Alouettes and the Eskimos on Adidas Friday Night Football beginning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. The Eskimos will be better tomorrow night, right?
Well, they have to be.
They won't lose by 46 points.
No, yeah, and you know that Don Matthews will have them ready to play. Montreal struggles in Commonwealth, as do a lot of teams.
Danny Mac right on track tonight. We saw him a couple of weeks ago here against Montreal, and he threw a couple up for grabs.
Well, he recognizes the Saskatchewan defense, and he knows one thing when he looks across the line in this game tonight. He's seeing a lot of rookie faces. He's seen a lot of guys that he's never seen in this league before. The Saskatchewan front seven, with the exception of Willie Pless, they're all rookies, and you got to think he's licking his chops a little bit and trying to take advantage of some inexperience.
2nd and 9. McManus goes to the shotgun and to the near side. Corey Grant makes the catch, and he'll have another Ticat first down. What a great rookie season for Corey Grant. He'll be a great player in this league, getting better by the week. He has 21 yards right there.
Every time he makes a catch like this, he will gain more confidence. I mean, this ball is thrown on a rope out to the outside, and there was a defender right in his face. Shannon Garrett had his hands all over the football. Corey Grant concentrated on it. He stuck with it, and he will gain confidence with every catch, just like that one.
Another Ticat first down at the 31. Ronald Williams for about 3. Numbers after 1 quarter when the Ticats had the wind at their backs favor the Tiger Cats, as you'd guess. 9:28 time of possession down the left-hand side for Saskatchewan, but 111 net yards for the Tiger Cats, and 2 turnovers. 14 points Hamilton acquired there.
Yeah, and you know, the 77 yards passing, well, a whole bunch of that came on one play to Andrew Grigg.
66, right?
Yeah. Well, Ron Lancaster's got what he wants, a lead.
A 15-0 early in the second quarter. 2nd down. McManus goes for it all, and he's got it. two tonight. Two big plays. McManus to Gregg.
Andrew Gregg has attacked Mario Smith at the safety position and come up winning twice. Andrew Gregg runs a post pattern, but there's two of them. Mario Smith, he gets caught up looking at the underneath pattern. He gets caught up too shallow. Danny McManus looks underneath. See, over and under. There's guys in front of Mario Smith. Now he has to turn back, and he has no time to get back and help Douglas Kraft on the post pattern. Way too shallow from the safety position, and Andrew Gregg made him pay.
Andrew Gregg with a couple of touchdown receptions. Danny McManus with a couple of touchdown tosses. 28 yards that time. McManus to Gregg. And we haven't even seen Danny McManus work with his favorite target a whole bunch tonight, Darren Flutie.
Now they wait for the game to be on the line before they start hooking up. But no, this is, you know, he wanted to get Andrew Gregg back involved in the offense. And wow, is he ever in a hurry in the first half here tonight. A couple of touchdowns for Andrew Gregg and very similar patterns. One was a lot shorter post. See, here's what happens. See, here comes the post. Now, Mario Smith doesn't see that. There's underneath patterns in front of him. See, there's Darren Flutie's coming across. Mario Smith gets his eyes on Darren Flutie underneath, doesn't get deep enough, and you see, that's his back, number 22. No help for Douglas Kraft, and Danny McManus, if he gets time like this tonight, it's going to be a long night for the green and white. You know, that's a lot of steamboats. You can stand back there and watch it, take a picture, have a coffee, and go back to the bench and congratulate your receiver for catching it.
Big smile on the face of Andrew Gregg. He has 2 touchdowns tonight. McKayson bobbled it and got it back. A little bit of confusion down there on the kickoff return for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, Mike Saunders is back there with them, and you know, he kind of runs in front to just make sure that the ball is caught and maybe it distracted.
Kennedy to Kaysen.
Yeah, he probably distracted him because, you know, usually the guy on the right is the guy who makes the call. And I would think with McKayson back there and Saunders is going to be the guy that makes the call. He's the veteran.
Riders on first down. Steve Sarkisian at the controls. He's got Eric Gulliford. And a big gain for Saskatchewan out near the 50-yard line. Looked almost perfect there. Gulliford is a guy who can play any receiving spot on the team. Has speed and can make a big catch.
Yeah, he's going to come right across the field on a crossing route. Rob Hitchcock plays way deep, number 42. Comes in front of him and just deeper than the halfback in Chris Schilling. Right in that layer, right in the zone in between safety and halfback.
Gulliford to the near side this time. After a 27-yard Saskatchewan gain. Sarkisian stands in, markers were down, and right through the hands of Curtis Mayfield, but the flag is down in that area near the 40-yard line.
Now, we talked to Sarkisian before the game about the game plan going in against a blitzing Hamilton defense, and one of the things he said is that we've got to move the pocket around. We got to make sure that I know there's a guy coming free.
Hamilton, number 30. First down.
Chris Schilling nailing the holding. He says, I know that there's a guy coming free off the edge maybe, or maybe there'll be a guy, but I know which one's going to be free, and I got to run away from that. Move the pocket around. He's doing a nice job of that right now. Now he's got the wind at his back, which helps his throwing.
Carry on one now.
Sarkisian has been around the CFL for 3 years. Has not seen a great deal of activity, but he has studied the game, and he's a very smart young quarterback. First down. Sarkisian away from the initial charge, and there's an opening. Now he fires for Farthing, and that'll be enough for a first down. Now this Sarkisian was going to take off, but he settled for Farthing in 15.
Well, this is poised, though, by Sarkisian, because he had pressure. He had a lot of pressure on him, but he didn't force it. Didn't try and throw it when he wasn't ready. Just moved around, moved the pocket to the outside. Watch Joe Mumford from the outside. He gets some pressure up high with some speed on Fairbrother. He's there first. Now watch the poise. There's poise. Just held onto the ball, found Farthing, hooked up for the first down.
Riders set up at the 25, first down. Mike Saunders has 5 at least And he ran into Gonzalo Floyd. Saunders fumbled in the opening quarter, and the Ticats took that all the way for a touchdown. But Saskatchewan has not ignored their star running back since the little miscue.
No, you got to go back to him. You can't win without him.
Make it 2nd and 4. Sarkisian fights out the heat and has Curtis Mayfield. What a fine catch by Mayfield in front of Chris Schelling.
It was a great catch by Curtis Mayfield. He slipped and fell down. And as he was trying to get back up, he just reached up and stabs the football. He's on the ground. He gets up and pulls it in. That's a big catch. Yeah, he slipped when he turned to curl. He was down on his knees, and then he got back up, trying to fight to get back up. The ball was right there, and he just stabbed it.
An all-hands catch there as he stuck out his mitts and grabbed it. Riders now 1st and goal to go, 9-yard line. Sarkisian looks to the end zone. Touchdown! Saunders has the touchdown from Steve Sarkisian, and that was a pretty play as well.
John, we've talked about it all game. The safety blitz from the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Could Steve Sarkisian read the blitz, recognize it, and go to the right guy? And this time he does, because Rob Hitchcock is coming right in here, and he's coming on the safety blitz. Now, there comes Rob Hitchcock. He's picked up. Sarkisian recognizes it. He knows he's got Mike Saunders on the go route right to the middle, where that's usually where Rob Hitchcock would play. He's got a one-on-one with Joe Higgins, and he gets the touchdown.
Somewhat fitting that Saunders gets even on Joe Higgins there. It was Higgins who picked up the Saunders fumble and took it all the way for the touchdown. Nice drive for the Saskatchewan Roughriders with the wind at their backs. Sarkisian has 7, and the Riders are on the board. Great drive by the Saskatchewan Roughriders to cover 78 yards in 6 plays. Saunders made the 9-yard touchdown catch. Gulliford set it up with a nice 27-yarder. Farthing was involved too. And actually Sarkisian looked very sharp on the entire drive.
Yeah, and credit for the game plan as well, because, you know, they really moved the pocket around. Sarkisian read the defense, took what they gave him, and burned them when they blitzed them.
McCallum's kickoff will bounce once at least. Curtis Jackson returning for the Tiger Cats. Stumbled near the 30, and he's tracked down from behind near the 32-yard line and grabbed there by Mario Smith. Let's bring in David Amber.
John, just how impressive was that drive by Steve Sarkisian? It was pretty impressive. Consider this, the Ticats have given up the fewest touchdowns on defense this year. That is only the 3rd passing TD they've given up. That was a great drive in, against the great defense. Ticats leave in 11 defensive categories. They've given up the fewest points. They've also only allowed their 7th TD. They've given up the fewest yards passing per game. So that's a big march to get Saskatchewan back in this game. John, back to you.
Danny McManus will try and answer that right now on the ground. And Ronald Williams has a couple.
Yeah, it was a big drive by Steve Sarkisian. It's good for their confidence. You know, he needed to get out here and get a drive together, get some time of possession, and make things happen so he could try and get his team back in it. Now Dan McManus has the opportunity to respond. So, I mean, that's a confidence builder drive. Because you made good decisions all the way down, scrambled on the one, took off running. Now he's going to check with his DB. That was Todd McMillan. You guys okay out there?
Ticats 2nd and 5, 37-yard line. Morielli out of the backfield, first catch of the night. Morielli has been bothered by a sore ankle. Didn't play last week, although he dressed and stood on the sidelines. Told Lancaster at halftime he should have stayed in his blue jeans. Lancaster says, no, you look good in black and gold. So he stood there and watched.
Well, here's a new face, or an old face in a new uniform. Glenn Rogers Jr. is on the roster for the first game in Saskatchewan. And because Todd McMillan is hurt, Glenn Rogers is on the field. Originally, they thought he'd just play the dime tonight, the extra DB.
McManus has Flutie, and a big gain inside the Saskatchewan 35.
It was interesting when Glenn Rogers showed up in Saskatchewan. He walked into he walked into Cal Murphy's office, and, you know, they just signed Glenn Rogers, thought he could help him with their experience, and walked into the office, and he, you know, Cal Murphy said, the first thing he said to Glenn Rogers was, you know, I've never really liked you. And then, you know, as a player walking into the office to hear that, you think, oh, man, it's going to be a short stay. But then he went on to say, but you make a lot of plays, and we're happy to have you here.
Williams tracked down for a loss.
They were laughing about it. Glenn Rogers and Cal Murphy both laughed about it, and you said, you know, the guy makes plays. Glenn Rogers is around the football, and I think with his experience, Glenn Rogers will help the Saskatchewan defense, and you know they're happy to have him in now with Todd McMillan back in the bench, and you know they had a little fun with that. And Cal Murphy obviously has a lot of respect for the fact that Glenn Rogers is a playmaker.
Rogers is a 5-time Division All-Star, mostly with the Edmonton Eskimos, where he played most of his career, was in BC last year. From the shotgun, McManus loads and fires. He'll be short of the first down at about the 33-yard line. Trevor Shaw makes his second catch.
Well, Cal Murphy's going to have a lot to deal with when he gets back to Saskatchewan. The Reggie Slack situation, and him and Al Ford will have to sit down with Reggie Slack and try and figure out exactly what's going on and get the whole story laid out on the table and see if it can go in a positive way and get Reggie Slack back in a uniform, if that is in fact what they would both like, both sides.
If you missed it, Reggie Slack did not make the trip. He did not show up at the airport for the Roughriders playing yesterday. Most of the Roughriders didn't find out about it until they got to Ivor Wynn for a practice. Osbaldiston nails another field goal. He missed his first. He has his second, and that adds to the Ticat lead. It's 25-7 on CFL Live.
CFL Live on TSN is brought to you in part by AT&T Canada, the network the world works on.
Cal Murphy trying to turn the Saskatchewan Roughriders around. He selected Reggie Slack as the #1 quarterback to begin the season. Slack didn't get it done. Sarkisian came back last week and got Saskatchewan's first win. Slack, as a result, is not here and did not make the trip. We told you about that story, and here goes Sarkisian. And Orlando Steinauer will have another easy touchdown for the BC Lions. Sarkisian has tossed a couple of interceptions. That one goes for a touchdown. And another turnover on a fumble by Mike Saunders went for a touchdown. So the Ticats are getting some points from the defense.
Well, and you wondered when they were going to break out interception-wise. You just talked about the quarterback situation that Cal Murphy has to deal with now. And now with Sarkisian struggling a little bit. This is where you come on. Now, he had a good series. He has thrown an interception for a touchdown. And this is where you wonder, would Reggie Slack help me standing right there on the sideline right now to talk to Steve Sarkisian and said, listen, don't worry about it. There's a lot of football to be played. Now, this is the question that you got to come up with right now. And that's what I question with the Reggie Slack situation. You know, no one is saying what exactly the reason is. But say right now, with a veteran quarterback like Reggie Slack standing on the sideline after a play like this, it can only help a young quarterback in Steve Sarkisian. This was a football that he shouldn't have thrown. I mean, he's gonna learn in a hurry. The more reps he gets as the starting quarterback, that even though Orlando Steinauer is about 5 or 6 yards off his receiver, he can make up that much ground in a hurry, and that is a long way for that ball to travel to Don Narcisse, and Steinauer is all over. That's called reading the mail.
He had all kinds of time to throw the ball.
Well, he does. I mean, but this is where the read took him. He saw the coverage. He knew where he wanted to go with the football, but Orlando Steinauer baited him. He got back about 7 or 8 yards, and then he busted in front of the football and took it to the house.
Ticat defense licking its chops with rookie quarterbacks in the lineup. They had an enjoyable evening last week against Nealon Green of the Edmonton Eskimos. Ticats winning that one handily, 54-6. Saunders returning for the Roughriders. Hard run, he gets to the 41. Turnovers have been costly to the Roughriders so far.
Well, that last play is called little growing pains. Points off turnovers, 21 already. It's tough to win, and it's even more tough to come back against this Hamilton defense. That's what is facing Steve Sarkisian right now. And he's going to learn a whole bunch about being a starting quarterback in the rest of this football game. Interesting matchup that we will watch. The veteran in Narcisse against Steinauer. Well, Steinauer's got one to the house. Narcisse got a couple of catches. I'd say Steinauer's got the edge at this point.
He's got 6 points. Sarkisian under the cover this time, and the catch couldn't be made by Sean Daniels, 35.
Orlando Steinauer is a very versatile football player. Can play the halfback position, moves back out to the corner where he played in his rookie season, and had 7 interceptions 2 years ago, 8 last year. The guy is a ball hawk. And even though he's playing against a veteran receiver in Don Narcisse, he will still play his games. You know, this is a guy that takes it to another level. He knows what Don Narcisse is going to do. He's seen him on film, and he's played against him a bunch of times. So he can take his game to another level and bait Sarkisian a little bit.
On 2nd and 10, Sarkisian picked off again. Gerald Bond returning for the Tiger Cats, still standing as he crosses the 35, and he's down to the 30-yard line. Gerald Bond has picked off the 3rd interception of the night. It looked so easy last week for Sarkisian, and Bond returns at 30, 40, 34 yards.
We talked about Hamilton having to mix up coverage, and that would be a key. Rob Hitchcock is low, showing that safety blitz that they ran last week. What Sarkisian doesn't see is that it's not a blitz at all. Hitchcock shows blitz, drops out of there, and he's short. Gerald Vaughn rolls back to the middle. Now, he is essentially playing free safety. Steve Sarkisian doesn't see Vaughn roll to the middle. He's thinking blitz, and when he thinks blitz, he goes to the middle. Vaughn was sitting there waiting for the football.
3 interceptions by the Ticats. More points definitely possible here. Here's Eric Lapointe. Broke 1 tackle. He's got about 6.
Now,
is there a better defensive coordinator in Canadian football than Don Southern?
I don't think there is. I mean, Don Southern put together the great game plan last week against Nealon Green, a young running-style quarterback. Now he's facing Steve Sarkisian. Again, a young quarterback, but he knows that can read defenses. So this time he says, okay, we're going to show him some blitz, and we're going to drop out of it. Let's see if he can pick it up, and we'll play different coverages behind it.
Ticats 2nd and 4 inside the 25. McManus far side. They call it a catch. Greg stayed in bounds. Andrew Gregg, nice night he's having. 2 touchdowns already. Good catch on the line over there.
Well, Steve Sarkisian right now, you know, has got to just let it go. You got to have a short memory right now and just get in there and say, okay, I've got to get back and get with my offensive coordinators. Well, Saskatchewan essentially doesn't have one, not by title anyway. They do it by committee, but get with the coaching staff, figure out what's happening defensively, come back and try and get something going in the second half.
Eric Lapointe again. Nice average for Eric Lapointe. 12.3 yards per carry. Rayborn. That's John Rayborn warming up for the Roughriders. We'll see if he comes in when we return. Hamilton, a great football town, and they're happy tonight with the Ticats on top 32-7. Lots to talk about at the half. Turnovers leading to touchdowns, and Steve Sarkisian hanging on the sidelines and wondering what's next after throwing 3 interceptions.
Well, now Rayborn's going to warm up in the bullpen, and, you know, I go back to this Reggie Slack issue here, because how important would Reggie Slack be, even if he was in street clothes, standing beside Steve Sarkisian right now, talking to Cal Murphy, going over the game plan? You got to think that Reggie Slack is another offensive coach, really. I mean, the guy knows the offensive game plan for this team. He's been with Cal Murphy for the last couple of years, and as the offensive coordinator. So, I mean, he is important. He's an important part of the team and should be on the sideline right now. And that's where I think that he's made the mistake. I don't know the full story because they're not saying the full story. But Reggie Slack should be here.
2nd down. McManus throws it anyway, even though the play was whistled down at the line.
Well, now Cal Murphy has to deal with it, and he's going to talk to Sammy Garza upstairs and just try and figure out what the Hamilton defense are trying to do. Try and figure out that disguise and go back to some simple sort of a game plan.
Offside. Saskatchewan number 8. Still second down.
Problems keep mounting for Cal Murphy's Saskatchewan Roughriders. A couple of weeks ago, we thought defense was the biggest problem with this football team because they had so many new faces back there. Willie Pless among the only veterans added to the lineup. Offense has been a problem tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they got a little bit of help with Michael Lawson up front because he's a little bit bigger and had a pretty good game last week against Toronto, but they are so young. Rookies across the board with the exception of Willie Pless, like you mentioned, John, and Lawson playing in his second game and playing against a pretty good offense here tonight. Danny McManus in control.
Another flag goes down. McManus can't make the connection. Solid hit.
I believe it was Travis Smith that got out there to the outside and put a pretty good hit.
Jason Van Giel was the intended target. And last week he was listed on the depth chart as a linebacker. He's in the backfield this time.
Saskatchewan number 92. First down.
Yeah.
So the drive continues.
Well, and that's another inexperienced move. I mean, that's another sign of a young defense with the Saskatchewan on a key play. I mean, look at it. Colin Scrivener's got 5 years. After that, it drops right off. Michael Lawson, 2 games. Travis Smith, 5 games. Neil Smith, 5 games. I mean, this is their first season. You're going to make a lot of rookie mistakes, and it usually ends up that they take turns making mistakes, which can pile up on you in a hurry.
LaPointe can't make it to the end zone on 2nd and goal.
You know, and what they got to do when they're young is they just got to fly around, and if they make a mistake, make it at full speed. And I think, you know, that's basically what Travis Smith is trying to do. He says, you know, whether or not we make mistakes up front, let's make them go in full speed. Travis Smith's just going to say, I'm going to come up, plug the hole, hold my ground, drive my feet, keep Eric LaPointe out of the end zone.
Couple of Smiths in there on the tackle. There's Smiths all over the place. There's Mario, number 22, Travis, number 48, and Neil, number 99, all in the Saskatchewan defense. And this time, the Ticats are saying touchdown, but the Roughriders say they've stopped him.
What does the ref say?
Van Giel carried the ball, and Terrell Farley looks to have made the stop at the 1-yard line.
Terrell Farley comes off the edge. He's the one that jams up the hole, and I don't think that ball crossed the plane.
It did not. There was no signal from the officials down there. So now there's 3rd and goal to go. Ticats are at the Roughrider 1-yard line, and they punch into the end zone. Look at that speed. He's into the end zone. Danny McManus.
He almost didn't make it. He almost didn't make it.
McManus has scored a touchdown or 2 in his day, but usually right behind a big old center.
Well,
he doesn't really sprint out very often, and if we replay this for you, you'll see why.
Well, he takes advantage of the inexperience because Terrell Farley just made a play. He's all excited, and he's got contained, but he got caught way inside. But you know what? Danny McManus almost didn't get there. He almost got ran down by the secondary guy.
Ticats are padding it out against the Saskatchewan Roughriders tonight.
Well, Danny McManus doesn't do this very often, but when he does, he fools everybody. And this time he takes advantage of the inexperience with Terrell Farley. Terrell Farley's going to come up. Now, he should go upfield. That's his assignment. What happens is he gets caught on the play-action fake way inside. No one's told him that Danny McManus is going to run the football. So number 8 says, well, he's not going to run. Whoa! He is going to run the football. Now, look at this. Shannon Garrett, from about 10 feet away, almost gets there. Or, excuse me, 10 yards away, he almost gets there. I mean, here it is. Watch Farley. He goes way down in here on the play fake. McManus gets the other, but way back here is Shannon Garrett, and he almost catches him. Watch this. Here comes the fake. Terrell Farley like, whoa, put on the brakes. That's the air brakes. And Danny McManus just doesn't quite have the speed to get to the outside, so he cuts back in.
But when he gets up ahead of steam, he's a tough guy to bring down, isn't he?
Yeah, he keeps that one. That's the one that Danny McManus will talk about in the game film the next day.
I can imagine watching tapes tomorrow that McManus will get a pretty good going over from his teammates. But he got the touchdown. It's 39-7 as the Riders try and salvage a little something on a Saunders return out to the 45-yard line. 1:44 to go in the opening half. 8 plays to cover 30 yards.
2 Saskatchewan penalties, and the whole thing started with the Gerald Vaughn interception. And when you get that interception, the offense comes on with a lot of confidence, gets the momentum going on your side of the field, and Danny McManus takes advantage of it and puts another 7 on the board with a nifty little run to the outside. Call it nifty. I don't want to call it speedy.
No, it wasn't pure speed.
We'll call it nifty. But Gerald Vaughn's the guy who set it all up, and when you look at the scoreboard as a defensive back right now, this is what you start to think. You know, maybe I can get a couple tonight. Yeah, this could be a stat night for you, Gerald Vaughn. If Steve Sarkisian, the offensive coaching staff for Saskatchewan, can't figure out what you're trying to do with this disguise, blitz disguise is what Hamilton's doing now.
Sarkisian remains at quarterback for Saskatchewan. Cal Murphy really doesn't have very many options right now. So Sarkisian keeps it on the ground with Sean Daniels. Floyd is down there celebrating number 90.
Don, you make an interesting point about not having a lot of options. I mean, John Rayborn has not thrown a football in game action. You know, Steve Sarkisian's the guy, and he doesn't have another one. That's it. The other guy's back in Regina.
I wouldn't know who the emergency quarterback is on the Saskatchewan depth chart.
Maybe Dan Farthing.
John Rayborn, in his first CFL season, he's 23, from Texas, El Paso.
Would the timer please reset the clock to 1:42?
And beside his name, statistically, it says 0 passes for 0 yards and 0 completions.
And if they have to get to Dan Farthing, they're in real trouble. That's no slight against Dan Farthing. If in fact he's the emergency quarterback. I think he is.
Sarkisian went to the release valve, and it's off Daniels and almost into the hands of Mike Saunders. He had time. The offensive line has not been a big problem for Sarkisian tonight.
No, they've been giving him time to throw the football. I mean, Steve Sarkisian, and it's been game plan a little bit. He's dropped back here. See, pretty good time across the board. He's got a throwing lane. He's got lots of time to throw the football. But he's having trouble reading the coverage right now.
And that's not unexpected when you look at what he's up against. A great defense and a wonderful defensive coach in Don Southern. Early movement, no flags. McCallum gets it high with 1:29 to go. Arosius Parker returning. A 38-yard punt for about 7. There's a marker down. At the half, Duthie, Dunnigan, and Schultz.
You know, by the way those guys go after it sometime, you know, maybe we should not call it the control, but call it the cage. You know, what do you think? Back to the cage.
Back there.
Holding, Hamilton number 29, first down.
Not that that penalty will matter a whole bunch. With 1:24 till halftime, Riders have to regroup, trailing by 32.
Now he walks over to the line. Danny Mack says, he looks at the defense, goes, watch my speed, guys. Like, I can burn you at any moment.
Riders read it well. There was no running room there for LaPointe.
Here's what Saskatchewan has to do right now. I mean, they have to go and regroup. I mean, you'd think that this game is almost over at 39-7 before we even get at the halftime break. But Cal Murphy's got to go in and rally the troops, and this is what he'll say to them. He'll go in there and he'll say, okay, guys, we have to win the second half. Just think about it that way. It's 0-0. Let's go out and win the second half. And, you know, Ron Lancaster will be saying the same kind of speech for a different reason. Guys, it's 0-0. Don't let up now.
2nd and 10. Short of the first down.
Murphy said to us that Reggie Slack was going to be an emergency quarterback at best if he was here. Well, at 39-7, I think you're almost at an emergency.
I wrote the quote down directly. Extreme emergency was what Murphy said yesterday. But then on the other side of things, Lynn, I don't know if the Riders were telling us that Reggie Slack had missed the airplane when we were talking to Saskatchewan at that time yesterday, which was somewhere around 1 o'clock Eastern. They did not admit at that point that Reggie Slack was not on the airplane.
No, they wouldn't admit it. And then as it started to come out and started to make the phone calls and found out that Alan Ford had called Reggie Slack and said not to come, that they would deal with it on Friday when they got back to Saskatchewan. Stay tuned.
Well, the newspapers in Saskatchewan will be having a field day for the rest of this week, as if they didn't today. A good charge on us. Balderston got out of the way. Gulliford returning, and he's wrapped up by Rob Hitchcock, number 42.
Well, now that Hamilton defense with this kind of lead, boy, this is a fun game to be in, and Rob Hitchcock will be a big part of that. He'll get a chance to blitz some more, and then you got to think a guy like Joe Montford. Well, what is Joe Montford thinking now? Right now, he's on a pace for 36 sacks on the year. 8 sacks coming in.
Yeah, it's a chance to pad those numbers a little bit.
Well, you can use a little more freedom, take some chances, give your guy a couple of moves, maybe take an inside pass rush lane and cheat.
Sarkisian has a completion at the 40. Farthing made the catch, number 10, and he's about 3 shy of a first down.
You just think of the season. This time last year, Joe Montford had 3 sacks. He has 8 sacks coming into this game. On pace for, look at that. I mean, he's going to have a record-breaking year.
On pace for what, 36? CFL record is not quite that high. But that means you've got to be having big nights every night. He's had a couple of 3-sack nights.
Would the timer please reset the game clock to 40 seconds? Thank you.
Timer has made a couple of errors tonight. We've lost 2 seconds a couple of times in the final 2 minutes of this opening half.
Joe Montford doesn't care. His timer, that's all right. He'd take a break, and I can get my breath back here so I can get full steam on Ben Fairbrother.
Sarkisian has Saunders, and Saunders might be stopped short of a first down, depending on where they spot the ball. He was hit immediately. Gonzalo Floyd moving out into the area, number 90.
You know, and when you talk about the matchup with Montford on Fairbrother and the guys up front for Saskatchewan, they really have been doing their job so far tonight. Steve Sarkisian has not had a lot of pressure on him from Joe Montford and the boys up front for Hamilton. So, you know, you can't fault the offensive line, at least not yet. It's just some bad decisions, bad reads, I think, more than anything from Steve Sarkisian.
Well, this line may wear down, however. Sarkisian into tough coverage, and Gulliford comes down to make the catch. A little lucky there with 25 seconds to go, but Sarkisian at this point, after throwing 3 interceptions, will take that 24 yards to gain.
He certainly will take it because, you know, you take what you can get when you're struggling. Gulliford comes up with a catch right down the seam. Gerald Vaughn almost thought he had his second, ends up in Gulliford's hands, but here's a chance for Steve Sarkisian to get some points before the half and just something positive out of the first half of play.
24 seconds till halftime. Riders are set up inside the 35-yard line of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. A couple of critical plays here for Sarkisian and for the Roughriders, as you say, to just make it a little more respectable. And they're adding another couple of seconds on the clock.
Yeah, the time clock. The timekeeper's having some problems. That's the 3rd time. Now, Mike Saunders, see, he's the heads up. He's the captain out there. He's walking around to the ref saying, you know, you didn't blow the whistle in to start the clock, and yet the clock started running.
It's kind of like having bad brakes when you can't slow the car down quite quickly enough. So I don't know if Midas takes care of clocks, but might be an idea.
They added 1 more second, and they'll go and blow it in and start again. That 1 second may be important. Mike Saunders.
Sarkisian on first down. Here's a little heat as he stands up. Fires it in there and has Farthing inside the 10 with 15 seconds to go. So the Riders have a chance to punch it into the end zone here if Sarkisian can read it right and call the right play.
Well, what they got to do is they got to go right now. They might get 2 plays off, but they don't want to kill the clock. So clock management important for Sarkisian right now. He's got to get this play off. It's running now.
Sarkisian looks outside the end zone and has the touchdown. Gulliford picked it up. It was a low throw, but Eric Gulliford grabbed it, and they say touchdown Saskatchewan.
Well, that is taking advantage of a bit of a break and getting some momentum going into the half. Remember that speech I was talking about that both Cal Murphy and Ron Lancaster were going to do about saying, hey guys, it's 0-0? Well, Ron Lancaster will just turn up the volume a little bit on his side of that speech now. Cal Murphy got a bit of a break. He's got a touchdown. He's got a little bit of momentum. Ron Lancaster is going to say, guys, I know we have a big lead, but there's a lot of football to be played, and this is the CFL. Can change in a hurry.
And a half to go. McCallum nails it through with 8 seconds to play. Gulliford has the touchdown.
Was a low throw. Yeah. Steve Sarkisian, he threw it, and right as he let go of it, he was probably thinking, oh, I want this one back, because it was really low, but Gulliford went down, pulled it off the turf, and got it in the end zone. A couple of big catches by Gulliford on the drive. One that went through Gerald Vaughn's hands, and then that one to pull it off the turf, and all of a sudden, they've got 14 on the board. That's adding the 7 from that one.
Yeah, just 14, 39-14, and a little bit to build on for Cal Murphy at halftime, as you said.
Well, it's important for Steve Sarkisian, too, after a couple of bad interceptions, reading the coverage poorly, making some mistakes early in the game that just turned into quick points for Hamilton. Now he gets a bit of a positive drive together. Now he maybe has a better grasp of the Hamilton defense. So he'll take that now, go sit down with Cal Murphy and Sammy Garza at halftime and say, okay, now I'm starting to figure it out a little bit. Let's go back in the second half, see if we can't maybe get into a little hurry-up offense, try and use the clock, especially when we have the wind at our back, try and get back in this one.
Couple of plays have put the Riders in a hole, but Sarkisian has responded with a drive late in the opening half. Onside kickoff, or at least a short one the Riders are looking for.
It's a free ball when it goes 10 yards on a kickoff cover team, and Gerald Vaughn took one for the squad there. Came up with the ball. He also got a bit of a headache on it, but you'll take one for the squad to keep possession.
Stefan Fortin, number 27, was all over Vaughn.
Yeah, and Ron Lancaster knows how big of a catch that was by Gerald Vaughn, because if he doesn't catch that football, Saskatchewan,
maybe 2 plays there.
Well, they may get one off, and even if they don't, they line up and kick a field goal, which probably would have been around 50. I mean, he took one for the team. Here's the onside. He catches it, concentrates, watch the hit he's going to take. Bang, right over top of him right there. Hangs on to the football. That may have just saved 3 points for his team. Playing pretty well.
Gerald Vaughn's had a nice night. The interception returned for a touchdown. Almost had another interception that would have stopped that drive, but the Riders have the catch. And 7 seconds remain. McManus will likely just kneel down as he does on the 43-yard line. 5 plays determine the outcome of a football game. When you look at what happens out on the football field, and you think of the Hagen's return of a fumble.
Yeah.
And you think of the Gerald Vaughn interception.
Yeah, and I think of a couple that Danny McManus is involved with, too, to Andrew Gregg. 2 touchdown passes.
Plays,
yeah.
So Cal Murphy heads to the sidelines, down by too many points to smile, but at least he got 7 more back at the end of the second quarter. It's halftime in Hamilton.
You're watching the CFL Live, and we're at the half.
Well, at least the Riders do have a life. Thought for a while there we might have to steal a page from the team sports at the Pan Am Games and apply the old mercy rule, but no, Saskatchewan does survive. Now, Chris, at the end of the first quarter, you talked about how the mistakes in the first half weren't necessarily Steve Sarkisian's fault. There were a couple in the second quarter that definitely were.
You know, early in the game, I really didn't think the points disparity really had anything to do with Steve Sarkisian, but this play, this is the young man's fault on the interception. If you're a good cornerback, you have a couple really easy reads. Number one, the quarterback's eyes. Number two, the depth of his drop. But I think Orlando Steinhauer was playing a down and distance. He knew by his film analysis, in this situation of the game, this is Sarkisian's favorite plays. Steinhauer lives and dies for moments like this. He capitalized because he was prepared for this moment within the game. I don't think Sarkisian really will lose any confidence. I think they should play him the entire game because regardless of the score, he has to progress as a quarterback because we don't know where Reggie Slack is, James.
Hamilton defense working well. Also the offense. We mentioned at the end of the first quarter what a great trio of receivers they had. We left one guy out, Corey Grant. 4 outstanding Canadian receivers. Andrew Grigg, the big guy in the first, Matt.
Yeah, they're really getting it done, and Danny McManus is being the beneficiary right here. Danny McManus is in a situation where he is just having a field day with his Canadian receivers. We've got a 3, we've got a 7, and we got a 9. That's in football terms, folks. That's just a flood pattern. They're reading it. Danny McManus sees a quarterback. Low, Douglas Kraft is having a tough time on Andrew Grigg. Danny McManus reads a free safety low. He delivers the ball with timing. And Andrew Grigg is just having a field day against Douglas Kraft, which is unusual, James, because going in, they thought they're going to have problems with Tate and Garrett on the inside, but it's the veteran Douglas Kraft who's having a little problems with Andrew Grigg on the outside.
Last 6 quarters of football, the Ticats have now outscored their opponents 93-22. I think it's safe to say they are back. An impressive first half for the Hamilton boys. Yes, they were getting Griggy with it. I'm so sorry for that. Andrew Grigg and company in control, 39-14. Welcome back. Well, if familiarity does indeed breed contempt, then before the season is over, the BC Lions and the Calgary Stampeders will absolutely despise each other. In fact, well, they may already. They have a potential county exhibition and playoffs. They could play each other 6 times on the season. Now, already 2 counting the exhibition game. BC won the first game 37-27. But this will be the first time that BC gets a full dose of Henry Burris, Chris.
You know, James, I thought Henry Burris had a very good football game, and also thought offensive coordinator George Cortez did a good job of just easing his young quarterback into the game. The first 3 times Henry Burris had the football against Montreal, he ran with it. He had one read and he took off. That kind of takes care of the anxiety, the adrenaline within the game. And then everything shifted. Kelvin Anderson started running the football. That gives you a balanced offense. So now you have some different choices, and you can really influence where the safeties and the linebackers are. I thought Henry had a great game, but it was a great team effort by Calgary. We'll see if they can duplicate it against what I still consider a very good BC Lion team.
All right, pop quiz now. Who's the leading rusher in the CFL? Buzz. Not Mike Pringle, folks. It's Robert Drummond so far in BC, but he didn't have a very good game against Winnipeg. They need him back, Matt.
I think they do, James, and they need to take a play out of the Calgary playbook. Get the running game involved. Establish the line of scrimmage. Robert Drummond was held to less than 50 yards last week. That's not good enough. When he's having success, Damon Allen is effective keeping the ball off the naked bootleg, and he's having success. It starts at the line of scrimmage with the offensive line and getting and establishing Robert Drummond, who is the league-leading rusher right now.
BC and Calgary getting underway in, about 20-25 minutes' time. We will keep you up to date on scores as the night proceeds. We're already looking ahead to next week in the CFL, where we have 3 games for you. It all begins Thursday night with a doubleheader. Ticats, Owls, Argos, Lions, and then on Adidas Friday Night Football, the Eskimos and the Blue Bombers. Want to see one of those games? Jot down these phone numbers. Here are the ticket numbers for your favorite team. Do not forget, much ahead in Week 5 of the CFL. Our game tomorrow night, the Alouettes and Eskimos on Adidas Friday Night Football. That one begins at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific time. Now, not sure what you can really say if you're Ron Lancaster to your troops, besides keep it up. His boys playing almost perfect football for the last game and a half. Let's see what Ron Lancaster had to say to our David Amber just a few minutes ago.
Coach, 54-8 last week over Edmonton, a 25-point lead at the half. You're sending a message, it seems, to the rest of the league.
No, I don't look at it that way. We're playing pretty well, yeah, but, you know, they've hurt themselves. They've turned the ball over and took some crucial penalties at wrong times. But we have played pretty well. They've moved the ball pretty well on us. They have good offense.
Well, good luck the rest of the way. A 25-point lead. You got to be happy with that going into the third.
Yeah, no, we're not really complaining. We'll get ready to play 30 more minutes, so.
All right, there you have it. Coach Lancaster, never satisfied, but up by 25.
Rare that you see Ronnie Lancaster smiling even at the half, but he has plenty of reason to. And the big number, yes, turnovers. Hamilton, 9. Saskatchewan, 4 big ones, including 2 that led directly to Hamilton touchdowns on that very play. Now, Saskatchewan's got a big chore. We heard Ronnie Lancaster. He doesn't say much to his troops, but Cal Murphy has a lot to say to his team. Matt, what do you do about the turnovers?
Well, you just pick up and you move on. Steve Sarkisian is doing a good job of that. You don't anticipate the turnovers, but when they do happen, you got to continue to execute the game plan. Cal Murphy talks to his team at the halftime. He says, hey, good job of sticking with the game plan. Let's eliminate the turnovers and see if we can't get ourselves back in this football game. Chris, I think it's a situation where that's good advice, and it's exactly what the Saskatchewan team's doing.
And I like the way Hamilton right now is playing so consistently well. They've really put together about 6 impressive quarters of football, and I really think it's a depth issue as much as anything else. The expected players, McManus, Flutie, Calvin Tiggle, Montford, Terry Vaughn, all those guys, they're veterans. They're going to play. But remember, this is a team that lost Justin Ring and Dan Pronick. Well, Trevor Shaw came through, Eric Lapointe came through, and they just had different situational players that are now elevating their play, and they're becoming veteran players right before our eyes. And that is so critical in the CFL with only 39 regular players, a lot of veteran guys playing special teams. Injuries an issue, and I think more than anything else, Hamilton has survived that rash of injury, James.
All right, let us talk about Saskatchewan. Not really much of a choice when you don't have Reggie Slack, when you have an inexperienced quarterback. In any way, would you take Steve Sarkisian out of there, or just leave him in there no matter how bad the score is?
Let him play, let him learn right now. Great situation for him to develop some character. It's a simple situation. Continue with your game plan, get Michael Saunders involved, get Donald Narcisse, Dan Farthing, your key players, and this is exactly what he's going to lean on. They're not going to panic. They want to establish a running game, continue within the game plan, and try to keep the ball away from Hamilton Tiger Cats right now.
Hamilton doing it on both sides of the ball. A couple of defensive touchdowns, a couple of offensive touchdowns for Andrew Griggs. Saskatchewan does stay alive thanks to Gulliford's travels. We'll be back with second half action right after this.
All right, let's be real quick. Coach, what could you possibly tell the guys at halftime?
Well, first of all, we've been inflicting the damage ourselves. Just tell them I don't want to see anybody not going 100% in the second half of play. That's all there is to it. We're in this thing just like it's a new ball game. We've got to play that way.
All right, well, good luck the rest of the way.
Not happy. No, and the Riders will need that good luck to have a decent showing in the second half.
You know, Cal Murphy's not happy. Obviously, he shouldn't be. But this is what Cal Murphy is telling his team when he says what he just said. He's telling them, I'm watching you now. I'm going to look in your eyes. I'm going to walk up and down this sideline. I'm going to look in your eyes. I expect the captains to do the same. And if anyone quits, they won't be here anymore. And this is where you find out what kind of players you have and what kind of character you have on your team. When you're really down and out, do they keep battling?
First down, Saskatchewan. Steve Sarkisian puts a little heat, got it away, and fired it a little too far. Intended for Eric Gulliford. Covering was Orlando Steinauer, who has played a good ball game tonight. Sarkisian fired one for Gerald Vaughn, and he took it all the way for a touchdown. There was a fumble that went directly to a touchdown for Joe Higgins.
He had good time in the first half. The offensive line did a decent job. The offensive game plan looked good to start with a lot of movement from the pocket, but Steve Sarkisian made some bad reads, cost him a turnover.
On 2nd and 10, Sarkisian has to get out of there. Away from the Griggs. And he's safely to the sidelines, but well short of the first down. Numbers in the first half, and look to the right side of the column here. 181 yards overall, 14 of 22.
Well, 2 for 6 to the right side. That's probably because a couple of those were caught by the wrong colored jersey. Orlando Steinauer took one to the house, and Frank West had one. Gerald Vaughn had one, almost had 2.
But what was not indicated on that graphic, the 3 interceptions. McCallum with the wind at his back. Sails it down. And Jackson, Curtis Jackson, got a hand on it and pushed it out.
This was a half for Steve Sarkisian. Turnover after turnover. Put together 2 good drives in the first half, and other than that, it was problems. Here's the first one to Frank West. He picks that one off. Hamilton gets points out of it. Then Mike Saunders puts the ball on the ground. Joe Higgins picks it up, and he's gone to the end zone. More points for Hamilton.
And the offense hasn't even gotten on track yet.
No, they certainly haven't, and the defense wasn't finished yet. Here's the Orlando Steinauer, and this is just a pass that shouldn't have gone out there. Steinauer takes that one back to pay dirt, and then one more for Gerald Vaughn. He catches one over the middle. Bad read by Sarkisian. Thought it was blitz. Went down the middle where he thought he should go, but there was Gerald Vaughn hanging in there, and that was another one. Vaughn almost had one more before the end of the half.
Throw in a couple of Andrew Grigg touchdowns, and the Ticats had a great first half. Hard to believe this is a team that lost 2 in a row prior to coming into last week's shellacking of the Edmonton Eskimos, 54-8. So the Ticats are back. And we knew that last week.
Well, it's smart by Don Southern, the defensive coordinator. I mean, he knows that Saskatchewan has the same film that they have. Saskatchewan watches that Edmonton game, and he blitzed Rob Hitchcock 17 times in the game. 12 in the first half. Saskatchewan put a game plan together. Sarkisian was thinking blitz all the way coming in, and in the first half, Don Southern changed it up.
McManus hit Grigg, and the ball squirted loose, but they'll call it a catch, and there'll be no fumble return for Saskatchewan. Mario Smith thought it might have been a completed pass and a fumble, but it's ruled incomplete.
It's quite a hit. I believe it was Doug Kraft that laid the leather on Andrew Grigg to the outside, and that just jarred the ball loose. Watch this hit. Here comes Andrew Grigg on the post. Now, he's had a pretty good night on this same pattern. Watch, bang, there's the hit right in the back of the head. Ball comes out of there. That's called bringing the hammer. And I'm not talking about a play school hammer. This is not play school. That was the real hammer.
Grigg had possession for a split second, had it in his mitts, and it squirted out. Eric Gulliford returning for the Roughriders. 46-yard punts. Steve Sarkisian has the #1 job in Saskatchewan, but he's down by 25 points in the third.
CFL Live on TSN is brought to you in part by Gatorade. Is it in you?
It's a long way back for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in Week 5 of the Canadian Football League. Riders won 20-15 over the Argos. In Week 4, there was a spark as a result of that victory, and then they have stumbled and fumbled and been intercepted in Iberwin tonight. 1st and 10, Saskatchewan at the 35. They need some big plays. Sarkisian has to make something happen. Perhaps Mayfield's catch right there, staying in bounds just across the 50-yard line. Nice catch by Mayfield and well tossed by Steve Sarkisian.
Well, this is what we talked about, where he's moving the pocket around. He gets to the outside, and he throws a pretty nice ball on the run. It's not easy to throw on the run, and Sarkisian gets it out of there. Watch Curtis Mayfield keep his feet in bounds. That's why he's on the roster. They need him to make some big plays, and with the situation they're facing now and the deficit they're facing, they need him in a hurry, and that may be one of them.
28 yards for Mayfield as they move into Hamilton territory down near the 30-yard line. Narcisse to the far side with 2 other receivers. Mike Moore, number 19, checks in. And Saunders got the call for a couple of yards. Cummins had him that time. Jeff Cummins, 99. He's a big play guy.
He's a big play guy. He made big plays. He makes them against this team. This was last year, a big punt return that brought his team back into it all the way for a touchdown. Curtis Mayfield went 93 yards on that one. Hamilton ended up winning that game late, but it was a big play for him, and that's why they have him out here. They need him to stretch the defense and make plays just like that one.
2nd down, 9 necessary, and Higgins has them all wrapped up. Sarkisian on the turf one more time. A sack.
Well, we talked about how Joe Higgins makes this defense that much better. He has a touchdown. Here he is down here. He's going to come off the edge and not blocked. Fairbrother doesn't see him in time. Fairbrother has the responsibility to check inside first and then move to the outside if he doesn't see any pressure from the inside. He didn't see it in time. Joe Higgins used his quickness, got to the outside, and beat him to the quarterback.
Riders will have to settle for a 3-yard try from Paul McCallum. And he's got it. 3 more for the Roughriders, but they'll have to get some majors rather than field goals to get back in this one.
They do have to get majors, but at least they got points and they got some positives. They got a positive play out of Curtis Mayfield. Yeah, okay, they got the sack, another good call by Don Southern, but hey, they come away with 3 points. That's positive. Now Cal Murphy has to look to his defense and say, okay, now guys, it's your turn. One of the keys we said for Saskatchewan, they've got to make some big plays. They do not have an interception.
We're not talking about just tonight.
No.
The Riders do not have an interception in 99. Pan American Games coverage continues with softball and weightlifting tomorrow on TSN, 3 o'clock Eastern.
Some of those DBs don't get an interception. They'll be playing softball.
Out to the 40-yard line. It's Eric Lapointe. What a story he was in week 1 against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. 9 carries, 187 yards in his first ever CFL game.
Well, you know, we're going to go out to Edmonton and do that Edmonton-Montreal game tomorrow night. And you wonder how much they would like to have Eric Lapointe in that lineup now with the injury situation they're facing at the running back spot.
Lapointe was in Edmonton as the season began, or actually as training camp began. He didn't even last through the preseason, and he was gone. Picked up by Hamilton. Here's Lapointe. Made the catch, gets the first down. So Lapointe gets his hands on the ball. Back-to-back plays. Makes the catch there, and that's one of the things the Tiger Cats are a little concerned about. Eric Lapointe was a tailback at university and never caught very many passes at Mount A, but he catches one here.
Yeah, it just swings out of the backfield, and you're right. We talked to Ron Lancaster about something that Eric Lapointe has to work on is catching the football out of the backfield. And what he wants to tell Eric Lapointe is the ball is your friend. So sometimes the ball will beat him up trying to catch it.
Yeah, that wasn't a glorious reception there, but he did hang on for a first down. McManus looked to Flutie, and it's almost picked off. They needed the interception right there, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And Mario Smith had a great opportunity to get the ball right back for the Riders.
You know, Mario Smith is an impact player, and he almost takes advantage of some pressure here. True Luck comes off the edge. He forces this play. I mean, you see him right in the face. He's getting some pressure on the quarterback along with Neil Smith. Now, that forces the bad throw, but this is the play that has to be made and hasn't been made by the secondary in Saskatchewan. Mario Smith had a big game last week. He's an impact player, but he's having a tough night tonight.
Ticats looking at 2nd and 10. McManus unloads in a hurry and can't connect with Flutie.
See, this is what Mario Smith is becoming known for, is that he wants to play the man, not the ball. He's going to look up the receiver in Flutie on the play and not try and play the football.
He was Super Mario last week. 7 tackles, including a bone cruncher on Mike Clemens, and then a blocked punt as well in the Saskatchewan victory over Toronto.
Well, in this game tonight, he got caught short on the second Andrew Gregg touchdown, and on the first Andrew Gregg touchdown, he took the wrong angle and missed him. So he's having a bit of a rough night, and he really should have come up with the interception a couple of plays ago.
Osbaldiston taking all kinds of time. He's back near his 32, across the 35 to get this one away into the wind. Eric Gulliford will not have a play. Rolling out of bounds. Saskatchewan first down when we return. It's been the Tiger Cats night at Iverwin. It's 39-17 on CFL Live. Rub-a-dub-dub, there's 4 in the tub at Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton tonight.
4 in the tub, but he's 2 over the limit.
Adidas Friday Night Football. Tomorrow, the Eskimos try and rebound. So do the Alouettes. It should be a good one at Commonwealth Stadium. Steve Sarkisian has put a couple up for grabs. 2 have gone for touchdowns. Defense has 3 touchdowns against the Riders tonight. Sarkisian into tough coverage there. He might have been lucky, Glenn. Chris Schilling was closing quickly, and Sarkisian ends up on his backside.
Yeah, he was a little bit lucky. He probably should have thrown that one up into about row 6 because he fumbled the snap early. Chris Schilling was all over the intended receiver. No shot for that one to get in there. In fact, he probably had a better shot at the interception. This Ticat secondary this time last year had 14 interceptions on the season. They came into this game with just 3. One of them coming from Gonzalo Floyd, but now they're making up for it.
They've doubled that. Now they have 6. Sarkisian needed a big catch, and he's intercepted. Gulliford had to go off his hands. It's Vaughn with his second of the night, and he's down to the 6-yard line. Not all the quarterback's fault there. Gulliford might have made the catch, and that would have helped.
If you're not going to make the catch, you might as well just knock it down, because it doesn't do anything. It's only going to be a bad thing if you knock it up in the air or don't get the handle on it. And Gerald Vaughn gets his second on the night. Gulliver's going to run the crossing route. You're right, John. The ball wasn't that bad of a throw. He goes back to the outside. Really should have come up with that one. Pretty good tip drill for Gerald Vaughn. That's why you do it in practice, the tip drill. Comes up with his second on the night. Sometimes interceptions come in bunches. Don Southern's seeing a whole bunch for his team right now. Of course, he had a bunch when he played, too.
4th interception of the night. Sudsy made a few big plays in his day.
He made a couple.
He's a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. As a player and a coach. Ticat set up at the Riders' 5-yard line as a result of the 4th interception tossed up. Nice play-action fake. Danny McManus ran for 1 touchdown earlier and had a target in the end zone, but it was tipped away.
Well, Mark Tate came up and made a pretty nice play to knock it down. Danny McManus really tried to gun it in there. I mean, we saw this play earlier, and you know what? It fooled him again. This is the one that he scored on, but it's going the opposite way. And look at Mario Smith he flies way in there. All the defensive linemen were bit on the play fake. Mario Smith recovers, but Mark Tate makes the play because he closed in a hurry to knock that one down.
Second and goal. Ticats at the Roughriders 5. McManus shotgun. 6 receiver set far side. And not that time. Trevor Shaw, number 86. "13 receptions for Shaw, 179 yards coming into this game. Couple of touchdowns last week.
Trevor Shaw has just had bad luck. Trevor Shaw is one of these guys that just, whenever he gets an opportunity, something bad happens. He was a starter going into the season. He was a starter in BC a couple years back, hurt his collarbone. This year, heading into training camp, was doing a couple one-on-ones in light strip out here, hurt his ribs.
Osbaldiston has the field goal, and 3 more for the Tiger Cat total. Set up on a Gerald Vaughn interception, his second of the night. Sarkisian wishes he had this one back too. Tip to Vaughn, and he heads down deep in Saskatchewan territory to set up 3 more. Ticat running back Ron Williams has a tender ankle, and so after he'd carried 7 times for 40 yards, he got to take a little bit of a rest. Let's bring in David Amber.
Well, guys, we've probably seen the end of Ronald Williams for the rest of this game unless Saskatchewan mounts a dramatic comeback. Williams, who's leading the CFL with 6 touchdowns. Tender ankle, as you mentioned, and there's no point in taking any risks. Same thing for Mike Morale last week, and he was able to sit out a game because of his sore ankle. But, of course, he's playing today. And I wouldn't be too surprised if Cody Ledbetter makes his way in come the 4th quarter as well to replace Danny McManus again, unless Saskatchewan mounts some type of comeback.
Well, that's the luxury Ron Lancaster has right now. He has a chance to rest Ronald Williams because, you know, Ronald Williams could have played. You know, he could have played the whole game, but Ron, now because of the big lead, has the opportunity to rest him.
On second down, Sarkisian is behind his target. He needed 5 yards. And Curtis Mayfield had no opportunity to bring that one down.
I mean, that's a nice situation, and David Amber mentioned it last week with Mike Morreale. Now, Mike Morreale had the bad ankle as well, and Ron Lancaster didn't want to play him at all. So he stood on the sideline through the whole game. He talked about he'd rather be in street clothes, but he was an emergency kind of situation. But then they got the big lead. They didn't have to play him. Cody Ledbetter played, and all the backups start to play. And he's got the same situation right now with with Ronald Williams.
McCallum across his 30 to get this away. Ferocious Parker. And flags are down. A 35-yard punt. Talked about Super Mario last week and a couple of problems this week, but the block punt and 7 tackles, pretty impressive.
What a week. I mean, what a game he had. He came on this block punt, went right through the middle of the Toronto punt team and blocked it cleanly on Noel Prefontaine. That set up the Saskatchewan touchdown, really got them on a roll. Of course, they ended up winning that football game. He also made some big, devastating hits in the football game. This was on Mike Clemens. I mean, look at him come up and lower the boom there. 7 tackles, like you mentioned, John. And boy, you can quickly go from the penthouse to the outhouse in this game, because Mario Smith is having some problems tonight after a big game last week.
Corey Grant to the near side on 1st and 10. Ticats with excellent field position as a result of the kick and the penalty. And here's Eric Lapointe. Great run by Lapointe. He's down inside the 30-yard line and finally collared and dragged out of bounds. He is explosive.
This is the other thing that Ron Lancaster gets the opportunity to do with the lead. Gets a chance to give it to Eric Lapointe. Watch the explosion at the hole. Eric Lapointe ran through a bunch of arm tackles. That's the thing that they say this kid has, a lot of explosion at the hole and great vision as a tailback.
And Mario Smith had to play catch up to hold the gain to 39 yards. Ticats at the 21. Another first down for Danny McManus. 6 receiver set. McManus puts it up, looks to the corner. Not that time. Greg was the target, number 89.
Well, I think it was interesting on that last play. They tried to go to Greg. Eric Lapointe was starting to call out where some pressure was coming. He was pointing at the line of scrimmage, and that's been one thing that Ron Lancaster wants Eric Lapointe to continue to work at. Blitz pickup, it's called. Sometimes the running back has that opportunity to stand beside his quarterback, and a blitz is coming. He's got to be the guy that can pick up that loose pass rush. He wants to see Eric Lapointe get better at that every game out. With a lot of playing time here in the second half tonight, he may just do that.
On 2nd down, wide open far side. McManus on target for Greg. Greg with 2 touchdowns earlier, including a 66-yarder. And we talked about him at the outset as not being quite in the groove coming into the season, or at least at this stage of the season. He's in the groove tonight with 114 yards.
Last year he was pushing 1,000, right around the 900 mark, and that's why, you know, once you have a good season like he had last year with 889 yards and 4 touchdowns, you start to raise the bar a little bit. People start to expect more of you, and then when you get a little bit of a slow start like Andrew Grigg had, see what's up.
Going for the first down on 3rd and 1. Ticats look to have accomplished that.
Well, they're going to have to measure it, I think. They're awful close. Saskatchewan saying no. I think Ron Williams carried the mail on that one. See, you know, and obviously I wouldn't second guess Ron Lancaster, but Ron Williams has been standing on the bench for most of the game.
Close enough to measure at Iverwin tonight. Ticats on top, 42-17 on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And did they get it?
Nope.
Not this time.
Well, and you know, the thing is that Ron Lancaster probably didn't have a whole lot of options. And the reason I say that is because he probably didn't want to go with Ron Williams. But the short yardage team was out there, and the short yardage is a specialty team. That's a team that, you know, everyone is out there. That's the personnel that you have to go with. So Ron Williams goes out there and probably wasn't loose.
Terrell Farley, who's playing his first game tonight, number 8, in to make the tackle there on Williams. So it's a turnover going the other way. And that's something a little different in this one tonight. Mike Maurer carried for Sarkisian that time, number 19.
So the mindset for Steve Sarkisian now has got to be not to necessarily win the football game, because that's a tall order, but to get some momentum and to get some more reps. Now it becomes like, the only way I'm going to get better is by playing, no matter what the score is.
He won't get it away this time. Sarkisian wrapped up by Joe Montford, who adds to his total. Coming in, he had 8 sacks. Off to a great start in '99, even better than last year.
Well, it's the blitz pickup. We talked about Eric LaPointe and how Ron Lancaster wants him to get better at it. Well, it happens the other way, too. Here comes Joe Montford, and the blitz pickup is, well, it's not there. Mike Maurer just missed cleanly on Joe Montford.
Ticats get it back in a hurry.
Watch the clip on 38.
Parker. Arosius Parker. Good burst of speed across midfield and down to the 50. And one for Joe. That's number 9 on the season. And look who he's even with.
Yeah.
We'll get to see Elford tomorrow night.
Surprise, surprise. Alfred Payton and Joe Montford in a sack race.
That's good. Is there a 3-legged race later, too?
Well, that arm of his is like the size of a leg.
You're about right there.
They have to pound him into that jersey.
First down. And Eric LaPointe charges forward for another few. LaPointe, a 2-time Heck Crichton winner in '96 and again in '98. 1,500 yards in his final year at Mount Allison.
Well, and he has the luxury this year in his rookie season to play behind a pretty good offensive line, and it's an offensive line that is led up front by one of the best, and a guy who's having a super year in Carl Coulter.
McManus, quick release over the middle, bobbled and caught. Opportunity for Williams to break away. He held on, and that's the way things are going for the Tiger Cats.
And it's the way things are going for Mario Smith. Because guess who was involved in the play? Number 22 to the right of your screen. You see, he drops, he sees it. Now he comes on a bobble, kind of a bad angle, and misses the tackle. It's been a tough one for 22.
It has been that. Mario Smith, 20-yard gain, another first down, a one-hopper fired by McManus.
I just got to get back to that Carl Coulter, because, you know, he is really having a great season. We talked about, you know, Eric LaPointe getting a chance to run the football, Ron Williams, and how important he is running the ball. Well, Carl Coulter is the key to that, and Coulter is having a tremendous season. He calls the plays, he calls the checks for the offensive line up front. I asked Cody Ledbetter about the importance of Carl Coulter. He said, you know what? We couldn't do a thing offensively without that guy in the lineup.
Definitely the leader up front, Carl Coulter, and he's bounced around a little bit in his CFL days. McManus from the shotgun, got it away. And LaPointe has his second reception of the night. They want to get Eric LaPointe feeling comfortable as a receiver coming out of the backfield.
He's going to feel real comfortable with these kind of blocks. Watch this. Here's Lawson, Carl Coulter. We just talked about his importance. Here comes the draw play or the screen play. Look at the block right there. Okay, gets away with a little bit of a hold to the outside, but there is no shot that Lawson's getting involved in that one.
Coulter started in BC, stopped in Toronto, stopped in Ottawa, stopped in Saskatchewan, found a home in Hamilton. 3rd and inches now at the Riders 16.
Guess who Danny McManus is going to follow?
Yeah, I would think you'd go right behind that guy. What is it? Number 51,
yeah,
right?
that'd be 51. Yeah, and you know what? Carl Coulter is the type of guy, too, that in plays like this will go into the huddle, and he'll say to Danny McManus, you know, you just follow me in. You follow me, we'll go right to the end zone. Now, they didn't make the end zone. They got the first down, but that's what Carl Coulter's like. He commands respect up there. He'll get everybody on the same page. Call out any blitzes. He's like having another coach on the field, and then he brings a little bit of an attitude to the line of scrimmage with him as well. Reminds me a little bit of Al Wilson of the BC Lions back in the day.
What a run he had. Should be the last play of the quarter. Here's Lapointe, and here's the touchdown. Eric Lapointe. What a great run from 15 yards out.
Let me come.
He averages 12.3 yards a carry. And you saw the explosiveness of this guy right there. He is not a typical big Canadian running back. He is a tailback from Canadian University football.
John, those were the two things that we heard about Eric Lapointe coming in. How he explodes at the line of scrimmage and his great vision. Like some guys will run by instinct. They'll just try to feel where to go. Eric Lapointe sees where to go. He looks at the situation, he looks at the set in front of him, and he finds holes with his eyes.
Ticats have 49 on the board, and there's a quarter to go. And Iverwin and Hamilton. Hard to believe that this team lost 2 games in a row a couple of weeks ago. They're on a roll. They put 54 up last week, and Lapointe has 49 on the boards, with this added to the total.
You're watching the CFL Live, and we're at the quarter. Brought to you by 1-800-HI-IT'S-ME. It's the cheapest way to call. Collect.
Can't say enough about how the Ticats are playing now on the other side of the ball. Well, Saskatchewan, from the beginning of the season, they say they wanted to run. Establish the run. Can't establish the run when you get way behind in games like this, Matt.
Yeah, Steve Sarkisian is experiencing exactly what Reggie Slack experienced for the first 4 games of the season, playing catch-up football. Here he's having to, in this portion of the game, he's having to push the football down the field. He gets decent pass protection. Ball's thrown a little bit high. Gulliford can't squeeze it. Gerald Vaughn gets another interception. When you're having to be aggressive this late in the game, it doesn't behoove you as a young quarterback or as an offensive football team. You're one-dimensional. You can't afford that. We see Eric Lapointe is on the ground, running the ball, just racking up yards, James, at this point in the game. That's the position Saskatchewan like to see themselves.
All right, we have ourselves a blowout. Chris, you've been in games like this, both sides winning and losing. Talk about both perspectives.
Well, for the Hamilton Ticats, this is when football is fun. You're on the sidelines laughing and joking. You're looking up at the stands, finding family members and saying, hey, here I am, look at us. On the other side, for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, this is when it is heck. Believe me, it's one-on-one. You have no running game. You have no deceptive package. You want to keep your quarterback healthy. This is the tough time in football for the Riders. This is the fun time for the Ticats. They're looking at the clock saying, slow down. Riders are looking at the clock saying, speed up. Believe me, I know.
I was going to say Dunnigan's been at both ends, but he doesn't admit to ever losing that bad.
Oh, come on.
One other score for you tonight. Calgary and BC, a battle for first in the West. This one is just underway. They played about halfway through the first quarter. Calgary leads it on a single. Winner gets first place in the West.
And they followed this guy, number 51, Carl Coulter, a couple of times tonight.
Yeah, we just talked about the importance of Carl Coulter. This is blitz pickup. Travis Smith is coming on a blitz. If Travis Smith is not picked up, if Carl Coulter doesn't recognize it and pick him up, there he is, picks up the blitz, Travis Smith comes in there and ruins the play. Coulter sees it, picks it up, Eric Lapointe's in the end zone.
Ticats kickoff. Coming down at the 15. Mike Saunders. Nice return for Saunders, stopped by Schilling, number 30. And the numbers through 3 quarters will favor the Ticats slightly.
Yeah, and that's the one. That's all. You don't have to do any more circles. That's the only circle you need. 5 turnovers. It's got a circle.
3 have gone for touchdowns is the other part of that story.
It's got a circle and an arrow.
We're going to get our first look at John Rayborn. There are no stats on Rayborn in regular season CFL action. Spent 5 years at Texas El Paso, and he gets a chance to take over the Roughriders in the 4th quarter. Missed his first target, Don Narcisse. Well, tough night for Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, you know, he had maybe 2 drives that he can look back on and say that they were pretty successful. And other than that, it has been a real tough night. Some bad reads cost him big time. And now Cal Murphy is really forced to throw John Rayborn in the game. And, you know, he has no idea what to expect right now as he looks out on the field from John Rayborn.
He was unofficially listed as the backup to Sarkisian last week. Definitely number 2 on the depth chart this week with Reggie Slack. And there's a loose ball. Here's Higgins heading to the end zone. And that'll be touchdown 2 for Joe Higgins. Mike Philbrick nailed the rookie from Texas El Paso. The ball squirted loose, and Joe Higgins has 6 more.
And the snowball keeps on rolling and growing and gaining momentum.
They might hit 100 tonight.
Mike Philbrick is just going to introduce the rookie to the game of football. There it is. But not to the game, to the pro football level. And there, because there's the big hit. Down he goes.
It ricocheted off a Tiger Cat and right into Higgins' hands. He's been in the right place at the right time a couple of times tonight.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Joe Higgins is both.
It's now 56-17. The Ticats all over the Roughriders from the opening whistle here tonight. Steve Sarkisian has fired 4 interceptions. 2 went for touchdowns. That's part of the problem. Well, it might be a little closer tomorrow. The Alouettes. Charlie Taff and company trying to rebound against Don Matthews and the Eskimos after the Ticats destroyed the Eskimos on this very turf last week. Adidas Friday Night Football live from Commonwealth tomorrow. On the return for the Roughriders, Saunders with flags everywhere. Mike Saunders has been a busy guy tonight.
Well, I'll tell you something, too, that Mike Saunders is one of those guys that won't quit. You know, and I played with Mike Saunders. I know what kind of guy he is in the room. He's a leader through and through, and he'll give you 100%. He'll play hurt like he has many, many times. You know, and when you talk to him now, he'll tell you that he feels pretty good, but he's still playing with some, you know, sore ribs. His knee, he always has to ice down after every game. I guarantee you that Mike Saunders won't quit, and he'll try and rally those guys so they get something positive the rest of this game.
There aren't many veterans on this Saskatchewan Roughrider football team, and you can see that that is affecting the team's performance out there right now. Mike Saunders, Don Narcisse.
Yeah. And Radford, and one of the key veterans is back in Regina.
That's Reggie Slack, who didn't make the trip. And that's another story. Rayburn flips it out to Sean Daniels. That's John Rayborn in at quarterback after Steve Sarkisian started and fired 4 interceptions. Rayborn fired 1, and that 2 went for a touchdown. So 5 interceptions tossed up by Roughrider quarterbacks tonight.
And the one on Rayborn is like not really his fault. When Philbrick hits him, the ball's bouncing around, ends up in Joe Higgins' hands.
Rayborn looks long into coverage, far side, and Steinauer just about had one there. The coverage was tight, and the receiver Narcisse did a good job in preventing an interception, I thought.
Well, that's what he did, John. I mean, he became the defensive back because Alondo Steinauer, you know, was there before him. It's almost like the Hamilton defense got a copy of the Saskatchewan playbook, and not only a copy of it, but they must have seen the order of the plays, because
you know how it's scripted, the first 15 and the next 12 or whatever.
They're seeing the order because they have read the mail before it arrived.
McCallum into a breeze. Ticats will get excellent field position and maybe a touchdown here. Steinauer, he's there. Oh, baby.
When it rains, it pours.
I think that might be the understatement.
Wow.
There's thunder and lightning around here, too, on a clear night.
You know what? There's thunder and lightning going on in Taylor Field in Saskatchewan right now, and that whole province. They will be fired up.
These are not happy times for the Riders and Cal Murphy. Saskatchewan has been outmanned from start to finish here. McCallum's punt, not deep, but not well covered, Glenn.
Well, he shanked it, and Alonzo Steinauer saw it, made the heads-up play, and took off.
Couple of touchdowns for Steinauer. Cal Murphy has seen happier days as a head coach in Canadian football. It's going to be a long season in Saskatchewan. The Maurier Canadian Open Men's Tennis Championship from Montreal. We'll have more coverage tonight beginning at midnight Eastern with Andre Agassi against Michael Chang. And lots to celebrate in Tiger Town tonight. Hamilton on top of Saskatchewan 63-17, and kicking off once more. Osbaldiston's leg is getting tired from kickoff.
You know, Ron Lancaster now, this is what he has on his mind. You know, he doesn't want to be accused of running up the score. And,
because we asked him about that the other day.
We did.
The score was 54-8 last week.
We asked him, you know, what do you say to people that say, you know, you shouldn't have run up the score? And all Ron Lancaster says to that is, quite simply, you know, we got to keep playing. You know, and we put in Cody Ledbetter, we put in our backup running back, you know, and now it's in a worse deficit situation. But it's just happening. I mean, defensive touchdowns and punt return touchdowns off a shank kick, and, you know,
Rayborn firing to the far side. That was well out of bounds.
You can ask your team to go to the sideline and just take a break. Got to ask them to keep playing.
Well, we talked to Cody Ledbetter about that prior to the game. He said, what am I going to do? The guy's open in the end zone. I got to throw him the ball.
Well, yeah, and you could say, well, you can just keep running it and everything. But when you're Cody Ledbetter and Ron Lancaster, some of the backups, you want to get some reps. You want to get in there and show something to the coach and do something. And
play action fake by Rayborn. That one is knocked down. And fortunately, it lands on the ground.
Yeah, they're having fun in Hamilton right now, I'll tell you that.
If you missed it earlier, we talked about it at the opening of the show and through the first half. Steve Sarkisian started tonight. John Rayborn was listed as the backup. Reggie Slack is listed as AWOL. He did not make the plane ride. He missed the plane to Hamilton this week, or I should say yesterday. He was not on the flight.
Yeah.
And the Riders are looking at what they're going to do about Reggie Slack. He is slightly injured, but there's more to the story than just being injured and having your pride hurt a little bit. Slack had been listed as number 3. He was not going to play in this game tonight, but he might well have helped out on the sidelines when the Riders were struggling early in the game. Leader Post in Regina came out with the list of the all-time great Roughriders. Have you seen this list? You're not number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
Sorry.
But you're up there. Glenn Suter, number 34 all time. And you made Ridgeway, and he ends up number 9. I don't understand that.
Well, I can't believe that. Because, I mean, you know, without me, he's nothing.
That's what I was thinking. There's Eric Lapointe, and the hole is big again. But there's no question about who is number 1 all time in Saskatchewan football history.
No question about that. Ron Lancaster
played longer and better than anyone else in the history of Saskatchewan football.
Well, there's another guy inducted into the Hall of Fame in '82. Still holds the record for passing yards for a quarterback, over 50,000. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to see him number 1 or George number 2.
No, those were pretty easy.
Well, you know, and I love talk. You could talk football with Ron Lancaster forever, you know, because he is so great to sit down and talk football. And I got to tell you a story. When you think about the old days with George Reed, Ron Lancaster, and of course Huey Campbell was in that huddle as well. And I said, well, you know, Ron, with calling the plays in a huddle like that with George Reed up there, there's George Reed's number 2 and Hugh Campbell's number 8, and you're in the huddle with those 2 guys, right? You're calling the plays. How do you decide who calls the plays? And he said very quickly, he goes, you know, Glenn, this is how it happened. We flip a coin. If it's heads, George calls it. If it's tails, Hughes calls it. If it lands on an edge, I got to call it.
Cody Ledbetter takes off himself, and he's to about the 50-yard line. So Ledbetter getting his opportunity with McManus cooling out on the sidelines. Danny McManus did not have to be brilliant tonight to win this football game.
No, his defense scored as many points.
McManus did his usual solid job, however, and the offense moved the ball at will against the Saskatchewan defense.
Now this
but
is
12 of 21, 217 yards. That does not look like a terrific evening for Danny McManus.
It didn't have to be.
No interceptions and a couple of touchdowns, both to Andrew Grigg. And all he was steady tonight. And all he gets is another victory for the Tiger Cats. Osbaldiston. This may go for a single. Not quite. Gulliford is knocked out at the 5-yard line. They should have given up the point. CFL Live from Iverwin in Hamilton. The Ticats are having a great time tonight. The game story so far at Iverwin in Hamilton. Steve Sarkisian got the start for Saskatchewan, tossed 4 interceptions, 3 in the first half. A couple went for touchdowns. And really, the Roughriders have not been close. McManus finishes at 12 for 21. Hamilton has 38 points from Roughrider turnovers. Riders begin at the 5-yard line on first down. Pass complete to Gulliford on the far side, and let's bring on the guys back
at the cage.
At the cage in Toronto. Hey, Matt, you've seen nights like this before, I'm sure.
Been on both sides of that ball.
Yeah.
You know, I find it interesting. Last week, Don Matthews, one of the most prolific head coaches in the Canadian Football League, gets it handed to him by Hamilton. And tonight, you've got another one of the most prolific coaches in the history of the Canadian Football League, Cal Murphy, getting it handed to him by Hamilton.
Yeah, and Ron Lancaster directing both victories. Ticats have put up a lot of points in 2 weeks. And nowhere to go one more time for Saunders.
And to follow
He's taking a pounding.
Wellesley, to follow up on that point, 2 young quarterbacks, 2 for each team that Hamilton has played against. And so, you know, I think you have to take that into consideration. And, you know, Don Matthews certainly did last week, let his young quarterback play. And Cal Murphy has got, you know, two young guys he's alternating out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you're taking some guys who haven't had a whole lot of experience in game situations, and you got a guy like Don Southern calling the defenses. You know, that's going to be tough. That's tough for some veteran quarterbacks in the league.
McCallum's kick down near midfield. Jackson has a return on, and he's inside the 40-yard line to about the 39. So, Matt, a quick thought on what Reggie Slack is thinking right now as he likely watches us at home in Regina.
Well, he's hurting. He's hurting for his teammates. He wasn't scheduled to play here at all tonight, so, you know, but he could have helped a little bit maybe on the sidelines. But I think that having an experienced quarterback on the sidelines in a helping situation is overrated at best right there. So I know he's disappointed. He's now thinking to himself, yeah, now these guys are experiencing what I've been experiencing, playing catch-up the whole time.
Cody Ledbetter on first down. LaPointe around the left side, and he goes airborne. Ball comes loose. But there's no indication they'll rule it a fumble. Chris, tough slugging up front on a night like tonight when you're on the Saskatchewan side of things.
Well, it really is. I mean, I had a conversation with Greg Marshall, and he was so proud of his defensive football team. The previous game, he thought they had made major steps towards really getting 7 people on the front 7 that could handle a running game. But even in the 4th quarter here, we just saw the play like by LaPointe. Point of attack, running, acceleration. That's simple football.
Another Ticat first down. Another drive continues. And another break for LaPointe. He's got another first down. He's inside the 15-yard line. Ledbetter told us last week when he got into the game, Lancaster told him to run it on first down.
Yeah, just run the ball.
Because the score was already high as it is tonight.
You don't need to score again, but run the ball, continue to run it, just keep handing it off, and hey, if they don't stop you, just keep running. They're going to run in the end zone. The most points the Saskatchewan Roughriders have given up were 67. That was in 1962. Guess who it was against?
I'll bet the Tigers.
Yeah, it was.
Southern was likely playing for them. Ledbetter lost it. And the Riders might have the first turnover going to green and white tonight. They do. So maybe that record from 62 will stay intact. Second turnover actually by Saskatchewan. First time they've recovered a fumble or come up with a turnover. The previous one was on downs.
Well, you know, and you got to look up, get back to that Reggie Slack situation, and you know, maybe guys in control can comment again. But and I understand what Matt's saying about the fact that, you know, how much can a quarterback really help you on the sideline? Well, probably not a whole lot. You know, when you talk about he's not going to play tonight anyway, so that wouldn't have changed. But my question is, when your leader decides not to come to the park, when your leader decides that for whatever reason not going to make that plane, what kind of message is that? I mean, and how much does that affect it? Sure, it shouldn't, but how much does it? And what does the future hold for these guys now with the question mark at quarterback and with Reggie Slack's situation?
Hey, Glenn, I think you really nailed it on the head in the sense that what is the future for Saskatchewan? Because when you lose a game by this many points, everybody kind of looks at each other and really wonders if it's the best 12 available on offense and defense. And with Slack, it really surprises me because one of the things I admired about him the most was his calm personality. This is totally out of character for the young man.
Second down and 6. Rayborn has the completion to Farthing, and he comes up a yard shy of a first down.
Yeah, and I agree with Chris Schultz on it. And you know, I think of Steve Sarkisian's situation now too. I mean, here's a guy that has a bright future in the league. He's a very smart quarterback. The guys talk about how quickly he picks up the game. Yeah, he struggled tonight, no question about it, but he's thrown in a tough situation now too. He doesn't want it to be like this. He would rather have Reggie Slack standing beside him, have Reggie Slack, and both of them working together to make this happen in Saskatchewan. He's a competitor. He wants to see W's. That's all, you know, that's all he wants to see.
I think at this point in his career, you're absolutely right. He doesn't need to pad his stats and be called number one. He'd like to see a win tonight and get this team back on track and seriously contending for a playoff spot in the West. Ticats will get great field position again. Jackson dropped at about the 52.
Now, having said that, we certainly aren't putting 63 points on Reggie Slack's shoulder.
No, it can't be all Reggie's fault. And the other point of the story that if you missed part of the discussion, Slack does have an injury that he is a little concerned about.
Yes, he does. And it's an injury that is, you know, I guess Matt can comment on that because Matt talked to him, and it is an injury. It's a serious calf injury that's been bothering him.
Ledbetter at quarterback for Hamilton. LaPointe, the ball carrier, looked like he should have been stopped in the backfield, and he got away. He's an explosive runner, Matt.
He certainly is, and this is exactly what Sammy Garza was kind of hoping his team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, would be in a position to do, is run the football late in the game and establish their key runners in Sean Daniels and Mike Saunders. But getting back to Reggie Slack's situation, guy has a great 97, great 98 year, 4 games into this campaign. He's got a problem big enough to hold him at home. You know, it's yet to be decided, and the jury's still out just as to what the situation is. But I think Reggie Slack's still going to factor into being a great position and influence on this football team.
Ledbetter looked a little like Dunnigan on that one. Nice play action, faking around the right side, another Ticat first down.
Not many look like Dunnigan running the football.
Hey, he's a Texas boy now. Y'all remember that.
That's what I was meaning.
And you know what? I got to tell you, and this, Matt, this is you'll love this, and I know you probably saw the tape from last week's game, but Ledbetter had a run just like that last week against Edmonton. And instead of running out of bounds, he took the hit from the linebacker to get the extra yards. And Ron Lancaster talking. I know that's the way you like to run it too.
Yeah, we're a little thick-headed down there in Texas.
Hey, Glenn, is that aggressive or stupid?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both, eh?
Yeah, Schultz
Eric will point for a couple more. Tomorrow night, we're at Commonwealth in Edmonton, looking forward to the Eskimos and the Alouettes regrouping on Adidas Friday Night Football. And I'm sure both teams will be a little bit better. Edmonton has to rebound a bit, Matthew.
Yeah, they do. And Don Matthews is taking upon his shoulders to get back on the defensive side of the ball and shore up his secondary.
2nd and 6. Ledbetter, a pitch out to Curtis Jackson, who slips into the backfield.
And Chris, just thinking about that game tomorrow night, what do you do against Alfred Payton? We talked about the race here, Joe Mumford and Alfred Payton in the sack race. I mean, you've had to face guys like that. What do you do when you're getting ready if you're in Edmonton right now?
Well, I think it's a number of things. From an offensive tackle's perspective, you have to play a technique-perfect game. But there are things you can do if you're imaginative with your fullback or your running back that can chip off on a defensive end. You can crack back on them in certain situations. Just don't give Alfred Payton a free run, a free mindset for a constant one-on-one, because he's too good in that area.
3 minutes to go. It's been a long night for the Roughriders, and all smiles on the other side. Danny McManus had a lot of help in running up the score tonight. I shouldn't say running up the score, but accomplishing what the Ticats have done to total 63. 15, 24, 10, 14. Decently consistent quarter by quarter for the Tiger Cats, and they've still got 3 minutes to go.
Ton of help from the defense. Interception after interception.
2 interceptions for touchdowns, 1 fumble for a touchdown, 1 punt return for a touchdown that don't count on Danny McManus's team stats for points tonight.
Oh, and by the way, they still have the ball right now.
Gambling on 3rd down and inches to go. Ticats at the Saskatchewan 20-yard line. Ledbetter himself, there was little doubt that that's what the call was going to be. Matt, we were talking about the Ticats a little bit earlier and how in the middle 2 weeks of the first part of this season they look so different than they have in the past 2 weeks. Last week 54 points on Edmonton, tonight 63 so far in Saskatchewan. What changes for McManus in that? We'll get to Matt in a minute. First down, Tiger Cats. Good play action fake by Ledbetter. Turns the corner himself. He'll get down to the 1-yard line. A marker down. Matt, just picking up on what the difference was when the Ticats 2 weeks ago to the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely nothing, just veteran confidence, taking over, knowing what they were all along, not panicking, not pushing any buttons, having confidence and knowing who they were, continuing to believe in the program, eliminating the mistakes, making a few corrections, and coming together as a veteran football team.
It was the offense struggling through the Ticats' first 2 losses of 1999. Penalty called against Hamilton there, and that play will come back, so it'll be first down and 20. Ball spotted just inside the 30 now. LaPointe hesitated, then took off. Another marker down with 2:20 to go at Ivor Wynn. This offensive line for the Tiger Cats, Chris, has really performed well tonight, hasn't it?
You know what? They really have, John. I mean, basically, what impresses me about them is they're well coached. I took in 3 or 4 of their training camp practices, and these guys work harder than any offensive line I've been associated with. They rep the fundamentals of football better than any offensive line I've seen since I've been going to training camp, and I give a lot of credit to their offensive line coach, Perlis. And when you master those fundamentals, that's when you play well under stress. I give a lot of credit to these guys just being grinders. There's nobody really outstanding out there, but they play well together, and that is the key to a good offensive line.
Better than any line you've been associated with, including the ones you were on?
Well, no, just since I've been retired.
Second down and 16. The pitch goes to Curtis Jackson, who's in relief. He lost the ball, and the Riders have recovered. So a little mercy here in the dying moments of this one. The Riders have come up with 2 fumbles.
They may not get to 70. The Ticats may not get to 70.
It looked like they might have with Ledbetter down at about the 2, but a penalty dragged that back. Well, they're not giving the ball to Saskatchewan here. That was an early ruling.
I like to...
There was a penalty prior to that, so...
Throw one into the control here about the worst loss. Worst loss that Matt or Chris had to go through. I remember mine like it was yesterday.
You can go first, Chris.
Boy, that's a tough one because I've had a few.
That's not a good thing.
There was like a 49-13 game, and I'm telling you, the fourth quarter of those games seem to take forever. Believe me, Saskatchewan can't wait until this one's over.
Ledbetter needs a bunch. Fired to the end zone and couldn't connect down there. Slipped as he threw the ball. And Andrew Grigg, with a couple of touchdowns early, was the closest Ticat receiver to that. Matthew, do you remember yours?
I'm just trying to rack the brain here. You know, it's been racked up pretty good over the years. But I say Montreal early in my career, and for good reasons. Some of the veteran guys were out doing some things they probably shouldn't have, enjoying Montreal nightlife a little too much. And we went out the next day, and being the beneficiary of some guys up front having too much of a good time the night before, I was handling the ball, and I got it handed to me pretty good. But those are always tough, knowing that the guys are having a good time the night before.
Ledbetter gets one more crack at it, and there was a miscommunication there. So on 3rd and 11, the Ticats turn it over on downs. Well, Suits, Glenn Suiter's worst beating in Canadian football.
Well, not only do I remember it like it was yesterday, but I also have the Saskatchewan fact book right in front of me to remind me. But I remember it. It was against Toronto. We lost 62-10. And you know what?
What was the year?
This is in 91. And this is a loss, and this is what Saskatchewan will go through here the next couple days. And I would agree with Chris, like, you can't get this game over with fast enough. But that's not the worst of it, because now you got to go through a whole week. This game is not just tonight. This is until you can go and line up again. You feel bad for the whole week.
Hey, you know what, Glenn, I remember that game because I was still playing back then. That was one of my best victories. Thank you.
I don't remember you. You were hurt that game, weren't you?
I might have been.
Yeah, that wasn't good for us.
It's hardly likely Schultz and I both were hurt that game. Well, I try to forget those things, really.
Yeah, that's what you got to have.
Well, that's what retirement's for, guys, so you can look back at all of that stuff and remember and share. Rayborn has a completion far side to Tunkara. Osmond Tunkara.
So do we give Hamilton the victory in the standings?
I think we can add it up there.
Okay, let's add it up.
3-2 for the Tiger Cats as a result of this one. A temporary tie with Montreal for top spot.
Which makes that a big game for them tomorrow night.
How about this, a big game tomorrow night, too? Winnipeg and Toronto.
Oh,
they're battling for third there. The Argos need a win.
Huge for the Argos. They need a big win in that one. And Winnipeg looked really good against the BC Lions. Montreal, big game against Edmonton to stay in the fight first.
Rayborn is down. Welcome to the CFL, young man. You've now been officially sacked.
Officially intercepted for a touchdown and officially sacked.
Yeah, and Montford gets another one there.
So I guess if we give Hamilton the win, we're going to have to give Saskatchewan the loss.
That figures in there. 1-4 for the Roughriders now. Technically tied with Edmonton, pending the outcome.
That's right.
Of Edmonton-Montreal tomorrow night at Commonwealth Stadium on Adidas Friday Night Football. 51 seconds to go. Rayborn has a connection out to the 42. The ball squirted loose after that. Gulliford, though, will receive credit for the catch. There aren't many plays left on that play sheet that Cal Murphy is holding there that make much sense.
No, not tonight. You know, when you think about those standings now, Saskatchewan losing this one. Edmonton, big game tomorrow night against Montreal to get a little bit of a lead on the Riders. And then right now, there's a big game going on between BC and Calgary. And in that game, it's 6-1 for the BC Lions.
Second quarter.
That's right. So
there's a ways to go there.
A lot of football left in that one, and that's, of course, for first place in the West. And Saskatchewan and Cal Murphy have a lot bigger problems and bigger issues that they have to deal with before they even look at the standings.
Now down to 24 seconds remaining in this one. Long night for fans of the green and white. First time the Riders have been on home television this season, or at least viewed back in Saskatchewan. And it wasn't pretty. I'm trying to be polite.
Yeah, at least they were viewing for part of it, I'm sure.
When you look at the Riders as they've lined up going into this season, I mean, there's so many changes on defense. The entire front seven has been rebuilt. A couple of leftovers in the secondary. Offensively, there are a few problems on the O-line with injuries creating it there, but the offense is intact as far as receivers and running backs are concerned. Almost another interception. That would have been a little too much with 13 seconds on the clock. Gerald Vaughn had a pretty nice evening, didn't he? We'll give him the Adidas game ball tonight for a couple of interceptions and a nice return. Tight coverage all night.
Yeah, he had a great game, and I mean, you could have probably picked a couple of defensive backs for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Alonzo Steinauer had an interception for a touchdown, and Gerald Vaughn had a couple, and really did do a nice job when he didn't see the football. He took Don Narcisse and Dan Farthing, Curtis Mayfield out of this game.
Rayborn on the run, and typical of the night, he one-hopped that one for Tunkara. Can hardly fault Rayborn for any of the problems here tonight.
No
he
shot.
really hasn't had any opportunity to work with the offense for any length of time.
Oh, no question. I mean,
he's number 3,
yeah,
technically.
For 4 weeks into this season, Rayborn didn't get even a snap in practice. And then he's got to play against a pretty good secondary. Rolando Steinauer.
Pretty good night. Interception for a touchdown. Punt return for a touchdown. Hopefully the last play of the game. Maybe time for one more. So it's back to the drawing boards in Saskatchewan. A whole week to figure out what's going to go on with the quarterbacking affair back there. Reggie Slack will talk to the team tomorrow. Cal Murphy will try and sort things out.
Yeah, just put that one in the books. Take the tape off, throw the headset down, burn the tape.
Don't even look
at
the replay.
Don't look at the replay. Don't look at the tape. Drop it in the garbage. Start from scratch on Friday.
In fairness to the Roughriders tonight, they played an outstanding defensive football team. And the Tiger Cats are back on top where we expected they might be, even with a couple of early season losses. This is a good football team, and well grouped and organized tonight.
117 points in the last 2 games.
That's not bad offense. If you figured out the average per game,
that's not bad. They're on a bit of a roll.
Ticats improve on the season with a very impressive display against the Saskatchewan Roughriders tonight. It was over early for the Roughriders. The Ticats scored often and finished with a 63-17 victory. So long from Hamilton.
CFL Live on TSN is brought to you by Castrol GTX Drive Hard. And by Molson Canadian. Here's where we get Canadian.
James Duthie back at TSN Football Control, and there are a lot of folks in Edmonton, Alberta tonight going, see, now you know how we feel. Ticats did it to the Eskimos last week. They do it to the Roughriders big time this week and improve their record to 3-2. There, of course, one other game going on tonight, the battle for first in the West. Not a lot of scoring so far. BC on 2 Louis Pasaglia field goals leads Calgary 6-1. Both teams at 3-1 heading in. Our next game tomorrow night, 9 Eastern. The Montreal Alouettes head into Edmonton to take on the Eskimos. Now, do not forget, in just less than a half hour's time, it is Sports Desk with Rod and Dutch. Big Mac goes for number 500. Tony Gwynn goes for hit number 3,000. Up next, it's Off the Record with Michael Landsberg, already in progress. Yes, the Ticats putting up basketball-type numbers. 54 last week, 63 this week. That is a lot of points. This has been a presentation of TSN, Canada's most watched sports network.